All right. Good morning, everybody. This is the P&F committee meeting. It is now 3 minutes to 9. We're going to start. Good to see you, Don.
Actually, it's got 1 minute. That's locked that some employees will come back.
So we got 1
Or
minute.
you leave by.
I need to
Are
say
we
this.
we're 8:59 or what? You're good?
We should wait.
We want to
Just-
wait.
You need to wait.
I don't have legal authority until 9 o'clock, she says. Now that it's 9 o'clock, this P&F committee, Thursday, June 5th. We're able to start the committee with public comments. If we have anybody that wishes to make public comments, please speak now. John?
I'd like to,
Yes, sir.
my name is Fred Stadler. I live at 1742 Hunters Glen in Oshkosh. And I'm speaking in support of item number 15, the capital appropriation for additional seat hangars at the airport. Just try to be very brief. You're certainly looking at a whole variety of projects. This is one that is of benefit to not every resident directly in Winnebago County, but certainly a number of residents. Has spillover effect for other residents. You have to look at is something, is it needed? Is it financially prudent? And clearly in this case, we have very established that it's a needed project. We've had a long waiting list of county residents who can't use the airport because they don't have available space. You know, it's needed, and in terms of being financially justified, we have a history of all the hangars that have been built in the past have long since paid for themselves. So there's every expectation that this project will, in addition. Now, at the full board meeting, the discussion sort of morphed into not so much is it a justified project in itself, but how can we extract the maximum revenue out of it? And of course, that really wasn't the initial intent. It's really fortunate that this is one of the projects that there is revenue involved. Many of the ones we have today don't involve any revenue, you know, just public benefit. This is a project of public benefit that also has revenue. And so, you know, you could take it, make it, we want to absolutely extract the most that we can out of county residents. But in fact, that just really, you know, feeds the idea that, you know, only the very richest in the county, you know, would be able to use these particular hangars. So I hope that you won't veer off into that, but basically look at just, is this something that the county needs? Will it be justified? In this case, we know that the life of the hangars is going to long exceed the time that revenue will come back. Basically something important to the whole character of the county. So I encourage you to approve this capital appropriation.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else have something to speak on? John, did you?
Oh, just move it to your neck over.
Mhm. Anybody else have something to speak on? Okay, we'll close public comments. Move on to approval of minutes.
So move for April 7th. Second.
Steve? Yeah, we've got two people that have to abstain from April 7th. That would be Don and Betsy. Don, you,
I wasn't here.
yeah, you weren't here for that. Okay. Approval of minutes on May 5th. So, Steve, you need to abstain from that, but
Mr. Chairman, was there a vote on the April 7th?
yes,
No,
No, we didn't vote on it yet.
I'm sorry.
Just take both of them at once now.
because Steve is gonna have to abstain from May 5th. We're gonna do April 7th, the vote, please. Those in favor? Aye. And you, so that would be 3 with the 2 abstentions.
Abstention.
1 abstention, I'm sorry, that would be done. Okay, and the vote for May 5th. That would be with Steve, without Steve, but it would be Don and you and I.
So I have a second. I have like a typo here with the dollar amount,
Oh,
the budget transfer, 54,000. 21. $0. Should be 21,091. I think.
where, what paragraph?
By the first page, budget transfer of 54,091.
Oh, I see. It says the project went over budget by 21,
Oh.
9,
Right,
period, should be 21,000. We can,
91.22, I think.
20,091 usually would make sense. 21,091.
you find it, Joan?
Mhm.
Okay. So we have 3 votes for and 1 abstention. Let's get on with this. Mr. Topo, you're an item.
Sure,
Four.
mine's a pretty simple request. There's 2 part-time administrative associates at Human Services. They've been on the TO for many years, each of them half-time. We have 1 person occupying the administrative associate half-time position. We have an open child welfare intake half-time position that we can't fill. We've had it for a couple of months. We just can't find individuals for that. We felt that combining the 2 into 1 full-time position would actually help us with recruitment and retention. It doesn't amount to any change in terms of the dollar amount. So we're just asking permission to combine those 2 together into 1 full-time position.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
No, please, let's say the entire resolution and not so move it. Okay. The motion is to amend the table organization for Winnebago County Department of Human Services to eliminate 2 part-time administrative associate positions and add 1 full-time administrative associate 4 position. Is that correct? Okay, we have a second.
Did you second it?
We wanted to read it, somebody else will second it now. You want to read it, so you second it. I did it
I
once.
can't
Wasn't good
second my
enough for you.
own. I can't. Thank you, Don.
I have to read it myself, I don't know.
I know, but we're gonna start reading the motion entirely, okay?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, did you get that?
All in favor 4?
I
0?
moved and, yeah, no, the vote is for, all 4 of us. Aye. Okay, item 5. To authorize a capital project for Winnebago County Information Systems Department to provide the engineering transfer of funds. Aye.
So this request is to start the engineering process to build a redundant fiber loop between our critical data centers, which would be primarily between this building and the sheriff's office. We have one path currently connecting the buildings, and to get a second path would give us the redundancy where, if you think of it as a circle, something happens along the circle as far as damage or something goes out, the traffic can go the other way around the circle and still get there. And some of the really critical stuff is our backup. We separate where the backup data is stored. The sheriff's office gives us maybe about 5 miles approximately between location of the backup data and the original data. That's a big one. And currently the backup takes so long, we can only do incrementals at night, and which means it's only the stuff that's changed since the last backup. And that takes right up until business the next day. And then on the weekends, we get a full backup and it takes all weekend. So if anything were to happen and stop that process, it really throws a wrench into what we have to take care of anything if something happens. So that's a big factor. The project is kind of a two-phase thing. What I'm asking for right now is the engineering money. We don't know how we can get from point A to point B because it can be aerial, it can be underground, and it's dictated by utilities and road right-of-ways. So we do this engineering to get our route. And then next year I would ask for phase 2, the money to actually build it. And then we would have the exact route and it would be bid out exactly how it has to be built. So again, right now I'm asking for the engineering part of the money.
Yes, sir.
Is there any of that free money available for this that they're giving away to everybody?
As far as,
I don't know, I mean, they're giving millions and millions of dollars for anything and everything. I'm wondering if we. Oh, that's,
Let's make a motion and get a second on it, and we'll go into discussion on that.
well,
I move for the resolution titled authorize a capital project for Winnebago County Information Systems Department to provide redundant fiber loop and appropriate $75,000 for engineering costs from the undesignated fund balance.
second.
Okay, now we got a discussion. You want to finish your,
Steve,
Steve?
I believe this will qualify for ARPA funds, and, you know, the more that we push through, it's not gonna get backtracked. Once we allocate the funds for this project, it's gonna go forward, no one's gonna go back for the $75,000. The ARPA committee, I think Johnson's supposed to meet at the end of the month. They could approve this 75,000. We have $33 million sitting there that basically we haven't spent one dime plus interest. And this would qualify for that. So we can approve it and take $75,000 out of our reserve, or we can take it out of the $33 million that we have until 2026 to spend. I mean, I would just as soon not pass this year and take it to the ARPA committee and take it out of that $33 million. It's just going to help our budget in the fall to balance it easier, but that's just my opinion.
Well, can't we approve it and then pick it, and then with their approval, go through with it, and it's all done?
I think if they're willing to backtrack, but I think once we approve the money, they're not going to go back and take them projects and push them through the ARPA fund. We're going to basically pay for them out of the general reserve fund. And, you know, once the money's approved, the projects are going to go forward, and it's extra work to go back and get the money out of the ARPA fund.
Okay.
Where
Steve, we don't have some of the citizen folks on the ARPA committee yet, I believe. Now, with that being said, we have not gathered enough information from all areas to decide what we're going to do with the ARPA money. So it's really premature to get out ahead of it and say we're gonna do something with ARPA money. But what I'm suggesting is that we go ahead and appropriate the engineering. Okay, and find out what the engineering and the design costs are. And then come back at a later time, if we've got ARPA going at that time, then we'll go and perhaps get the entire thing brought into ARPA. Okay, perhaps, yes, Don.
Would it throw a wrench in the works if we waited 2 or 3 months for this 75?
I would really like to get the engineering done this year. And right now is prime time for those type of workers. The engineering company we usually use is very busy, so to get them booked and get through this project for the end of the year, and then, you know, it would be helpful to get this part going and maybe have the actual construction be ARPA, because it's a complete estimate, but it would be something closer to 250,000 to build it. So it would be beneficial, I think, to get this part done and going, and then we could do the ARPA, because that was planned for next year,
That's right.
for the construction. That would help.
I saw that in the book. Any other questions? Yes.
I just wanted to update the committee a little bit about ARPA, since that's relevant to discussion here. The federal government came out with final regulations about use of the state and local fiscal recovery fund money, which is the 33 million we're talking about, in mid-April. And looking at, or analyzing where we are on some of the aspects of ARPA, especially the lost revenue calculation. We had been assuming we could take $10 million as lost revenue. So that's what the preliminary calculations were. The preliminary final rule said, well, it still says anyone could take 10 million, but that was going to look like the best option for us under the preliminary rule. Under the new final rule, it looks like we'll be able to take the 33 million all as replacement of lost revenue. Furthermore, looking at the regulations for how we can use money determined to be replacement of lost revenue, those are very broad. If we actually designate the 33 million in lost revenue as replacing general expenditures, the bottom line is I currently anticipate that we'll be able to pretty much put the 33 million in a general fund and spend it when and how county determines to spend it. So I'm just saying, we're not necessarily going to be limited to infrastructure. If we take this money out of the general fund, even 75,000, we can, I anticipate, be able to replace that and anything else the board wants to with the 33 million in our fund.
And this resolution is only looking at it for the engineering. It is not looking at it for completion of the fiber loop. So you're going to have to come back with a new resolution, okay, for the fiber loop.
Right.
So yes, we can approve this as the 75 coming on from the designated. So we've got a motion and a second out there. And we have a vote for all those that are for it. Aye. Oh, you got a no? 3, 0, 1. Thank you. Okay. Damo, how are you this morning?
Fantastic.
Good. The line item that you're dealing with is shift premiums for night work on the state highways.
Correct. In 2020, a resolution was brought to the county for a $2 an hour increase for night work on the state system. One thing, part of that was there was a time frame with with that. It was from 8 PM to 5 in the morning. Typically, in those work schedule, our crews start prior to that 8 o'clock and exceed that 5 AM time. So for payroll purposes, it's kind of a nightmare. Our crews start, they don't get the premium pay. They go on the premium pay, then they're back off the premium pay. And that's one problem with this. Our second problem, I mean, with doing work at night, obviously our traffic volumes on our state roads have increased greatly where we don't have opportunities to work during the day. So the DOT requires us to do this work at night. They give us the parameters of the hours we can work. This does impact when we schedule this work, it could be 2 to 3 weeks at a time. When we do schedule this work, it impacts our daily operations. The majority of our crews working nights. We're very limited during the day. Obviously, with our paving crew, we'd like to keep our paving crew working during the day. We can't get asphalt and pave at night. So this impacts our whole operation when we do this. But this is a service that we do provide for the state that is very important with this. Reason we're asking for this with this new resolution is to take the time frame out and increase to the $6 an hour. This would only be for state work on the I system and the state roads. This is not going to include winter maintenance at all. The issues we're having with this is that to get crews to work at night for the $2 an hour, we're having a lot of issues with getting guys to volunteer for this. We've ended up going to just assigning by, follow seniority anymore, but basically essentially the data hire. We're taking the low last people hired and we're assigning night work. Doesn't work well for us. A lot of upset employees by operating this way. We feel that increasing this to $6 an hour, that there's a little more incentive for the employees to sign up to do this work to help us out with this. There'll be no impact to the budget with this. It's going to be fully reimbursed by the state. It's only for the state work. The big thing for us, we'll be working at night, obviously, is the safety of crews and people on the roadways. So this is what we're proposing to for this now.
My question to you is,
Sure.
is it, we haven't put the motion out there or the second, but let me just ask, the state reimburses $2 an hour. Are they gonna kick when you say it's $6 an hour?
I mean, right now, other counties are paying overtime. Originally, that was the proposal to pay overtime. I guess Mike and Mark can maybe kind of, what I was told is that by doing that, essentially they would hold 2 positions within the county. Do you understand that right?
It's complicated for payrolls.
Yeah, so that was our option. All the other counties in our region are paying, a lot of them are paying overtime. So where we can, this is where we thought we could come in and step in with this proposal.
Steve, do you want to make the motion? We'll get a second, have a discussion here.
I'll make motion.
Make the full motion, please.
Wants you to read it.
Read the full motion.
Highway department's employees perform maintenance work on the state highway system of the state of Wisconsin required to complete during nighttime hours when the traffic volume is lower. Performing night work involves an increased safety risk to employees as well as distribution of personal schedules. The current shift differential for night work is $2 an hour. The proposed night shift premium is $6 an hour. The shift differential applies to night working being completed on state highway systems only. It does not apply to winter maintenance activities or call-ins for accidents. Because of this, only state work, the state reimburses the highway department 100%.
We have a second.
You didn't read the motion.
No. with motion,
Resolution authorizing the increase of shift premium for highway employees performing night work on state highway systems to $6 an hour.
Second.
thank you, Don.
Usually the chairman does that.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
I do.
That's
When I worked at the highway department, anything outside of your normal shift was time and a half. And that's how they should be right now. These guys basically should be getting time at, that's what, I worked there for 24 years. Anything outside of 6 to 3 or 7 to 3 or 6 to 4 in the summer was time and a half. You know, I mean, we're talking $6, they should be getting $11.50, maybe $12 an hour if they're at the top pay scale. So right now, this is still, we took that away from them. We wonder why we can't get people, because we keep taking benefits away from them. You know, 8 years ago, they got paid time and a half to do this job. Now today, we're gonna give them $6 an hour. I got $11, well, we'll give you 6. That's a good deal. Inflation went up 8%. I mean, I'll vote for it, but I think it's wrong. I think they should get overtime outside of their, for all, the snow plowing, everything. That's how we got it, Bob, you know it. And we wonder why we can't get, you're short of, you haven't had a class 2 operator since John retired. You've got a class 1, you've got a mechanic. And why would anyone want to come and work for us? We just take things away from them. They're never going to get more money than the day you hire them, because what are you going to take away to balance this year's budget?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Was the highway vote unanimous for this?
Yes, it was unanimous 5-0 from the highway committee.
Mhm.
So I lost someplace with their motion on the floor now.
There's a motion on the floor for authorizing an increase in the shift premium for highway employees performing night work on the state highway system to $6 per hour.
And it was seconded.
And it was seconded
Don,
by
I have one
Don.
more question. If they got paid time and a half for this, how much would that $6 be? So, on an average. Post.
It's probably roughly half. I mean,
I
the
mean,
$6,
what would the $6, would it be $12, $15?
yeah, probably.
Class
Yeah,
1
11
gets
or 12, yeah,
$24
right around
an hour. Class 1 gets at top pay, so it'd be $12. It's exactly half of what they should be getting. And that's what we got for all the years I worked there, for 24 years. And we took that away from them, and you wonder why we can't fill the positions.
Go ahead. Again,
So this would have to, like, if we amended this to $12, would this have to go back to highway before it went to the one board?
I think we would have to take it back to highway for them to make a change to the resolution. We would not, unless we amended the resolution right here.
Listen, something.
We asked the Corporation Council's opinion on that.
If the Personnel and Finance Committee opted to amend this number, then it could certainly go to county board. And then if the Highway Committee members who are part of the county board members had an issue, they could raise it during the county board meeting.
That would go, it would go through as a 2/3 vote. Changing or amending the resolution back to the county board would go through as a 2/3 vote for the highway department.
I did not say that. I don't, I have to.
How is that voted? Well, right now, it's voted. What is the vote on this? The majority?
Just a majority, because there's no budget transfer.
There's no fiscal,
Yeah,
there's no fiscal impact, at least the draft that I saw had no fiscal impact.
But that's because it's a state. You know,
That is the case.
I have one more question. Sure. Do you think that the state would go along with that?
Yeah, I mean, this,
Wouldn't be,
but this doesn't, I mean, it doesn't what any other county, I mean, they're still getting a good deal for, I mean, every other county's getting time and a half. You know, like, I mean, the $6 here does not exceed.
I'd like to make it better to change it to 12.
I'll second it.
You're going to amend the resolution to read
The title,
the title, the resolution title, and add, and make it 12 rather than 6.
and line 16.
And line 16, is it? Yeah, line 16 needs to be 12 rather than 6. Okay, we need to vote on the amendment. Are we all in favor? Are those in favor of the amendment?
Can I, who seconded it?
Ah,
I seconded it.
I didn't hear you. Thank you.
Steve, yeah.
Okay.
So on the amendment that authorized the increase in shift premiums from for highway employees performing night work on state highway system to $12 per hour. Those for it? Aye.
I abstain because I don't understand what we're doing.
We're moving it.
I understand, but I'm abstaining because I take my own to try to comprehend it.
Okay, so we've got a 3-0 and 1 abstention. So
Supervisor Cox?
the amendment passes. Now for the, did you want to, did you?
I wanted to point out that should the amendment pass, which presumably it has, when it goes to county board, the supervisor who is bringing it forward for transparency's sake should give the history of the fact that at highway, there was a $6 an hour suggested increase. But at PNF, given the discussion that went forward, this committee decided to up it to $12 an hour.
Well, we would normally show that history in the agenda item report that we submit to the board.
But
Correct.
again, it might be good to just also follow up with just a couple of sentences explaining what happened.
We'll do that.
Don, can you do that?
Or Steve could probably say another night. He seconded it.
He seconded it, and you
I
want,
wonder.
you want to carry it forward to the board? Okay. All right, so
Chairman Cox, can I ask a question? I heard them say before from finance over there that this was gonna require like a 2-position place. Why is that there gonna be 2 positions that this will require? That's what was said, and it was even said at highway, and that's why nothing was done on it, that the finance department said that this would be a 2-position place and it'd be overtime and a
The
half.
time and a half with assigning a
Oh.
time and a half for this work. So they would have their regular hour and then they would have a separate.
It's just the limitations of our payroll system. In other words, we can't assign it to overtime because the overtime rules are built into our program. And those wouldn't apply here, so we'd have to be putting in a new pay rate. And so we'd either have to put in the pay rate manually each week for each employee, or in a simpler way would be to set up that employee with 2 positions. So you could change the pay rate just by assigning one position or the other. It's still an unsatisfactory way of doing it, because then if the employee actually has overtime, works more than 40, then it's time and a half built on top of that time and a half. So it's much simpler from the payroll process to have a dollar amount that's a shift differential, because the payroll system allows for a shift differential. or any kind of a differential we put in, this would be a special differential, not just a shift. But that's much easier for the payroll system to handle. It is really the only point there. To have it be actually time and a half would require a lot of manual work to put it in the payroll. That's my.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We need to vote on the resolution. We have voted on the amendment. We need to vote on the resolution as it's amended. Okay,
We're short of it.
now.
We voted, I don't know, we have to vote on the resolution.
Mr.
You're
Chairman, I
done.
think we're already.
You voted 301.
We voted the amendment as 301. The resolution gets an additional vote, whether it passes or not. So we're now voting the resolution. Authorize an increase in the shift premium for highway employees performing night work on state highway system at $12 per hour. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That would be 4-0. All right, line item 6, there's 7, which is Sheriff Motts. These are, the next two are donations. Go ahead.
Okay, so authorize the sheriff's office to accept the donation valued at $14,700 for the purchase of a K-9 unit along with equipment and training for the unit from Tom and Penny Ehrenberg. So this typically goes through the foundation. However, this one, Mr. and Mrs. Ehrenberg paid the vendor directly. And, that's why I'm here. They actually have purchased a dog previously. And going through the foundation, that's why it didn't come for this one, but it paid directly to the vendor. They are a huge supporter of our canine program, as are others. The particular dog is now here and trained. And we will be retiring a dog early next year. So we'll still end up, right now we have 4, but one is very near retirement. We'll retire at the beginning of next year.
Somebody want to make a motion? It's moved that authorize the sheriff's office to accept the donation value of $14,700 for the purchase of an additional K-9 unit along with the equipment and training for the unit from Thomas and Penny Ehrenberg. Second by Don. That motion came from Dave. Okay. Any discussion at all over it? That's good. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Item 8. Authorizing the sheriff's office to accept the donation for one fire technology knockout fire suppression tool valued at $2,041.
This came from the Oshkosh chapter of Wisconsin Freemasons. The unit actually has 2 pins on it. You throw it in into a active fire, and it suppresses the fire without removing oxygen from the room, so it's safe. The cleanup is very minimal compared to obviously water damage, et cetera. But we will be using this particular one. Will be in our patrol vehicle and used at active fires when we arrive prior to the fire.
Want to make the motion? David moves that we authorize the sheriff's office to accept a donation of 1 fire technology knockout fire suppression tool valued at $1,041 from the Oshkosh chapter of the Wisconsin Freemasons. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Don. Don seconds. All those in favor? That's a 4-0. I figured. Thank you. Item 9, Mike Elder.
This is a request to change the capital project that was previously approved for an evidence storage building for the sheriff's department and add on a morgue and the coroner's office to the building. And that significantly increases the cost for the project. We are looking at having an examination area for the coroner. We are looking at having a 12-place refrigerated unit to house decedents. This past year, what we found out over the Thanksgiving time period and through COVID was that the storage facilities that we've been using have just been filled up. And we were scrambling for places to place decedents while their processing was being completed. And we had the opportunity to borrow a trailer from a neighboring county. And we had that hooked up to the sheriff's department for a time being. I think we had it there for about 2-3 weeks. And then there was a massive traffic accident out in the home county's area, and they had requested us to bring the trailer back, which would have put us in a real bind of trying to find a place to put the decedents. Fortunately, we've managed to keep the trailer here, but that is just a temporary fix. Originally, when we had planned the jail, we had planned on putting the coroner out there, but that decision was not approved during the original process back in 2000 and 2003, between those timeframes when we designed the sheriff's facility out there. So this is the request to bring the project up to having a morgue, an examination area, and the offices for the coroner out there attached to the building that we're working on building for the sheriff's department.
I have a question for the sheriff. How long do you have to keep some of those vehicles and stuff?
We have, well, one in particular from the Jeannie Baines homicide, which is 1993. So in unsolved cases, we have to keep all of the property, including cars, through the appeals process. It can be years. It is often years. And if it's unsolved, it certainly can be.
Before we get into a discussion on this, we need to make a motion and we need to bring it, take a second on it. So
I move for resolution titled authorize a revised capital project for Winnebago County Facilities Department to build a sheriff's office, evidence storage, and coroner's office morgue building at an additional cost of $1,154,580.
funded with
Funded with either a transfer from the unassigned general balance or advance from the general fund to reimburse with subsequent bond issuance.
We got a second? Are you a second on that?
I'll second it when I start comment.
Folks, I got this at noontime yesterday. The vote from the Judiciary Department, Judiciary was 5-0. This thing was raced by, I don't know if they called everybody up and got it to be voted on the phone or how that happened, but that was not with the agenda item report to begin with. And then I got this as well. I want to make note of that. Last minute again, for whatever reason, again. Mike, these revised or continuations or add-ons that do not, they come in after the fact without a full design proposal. And when the proposal comes, we've already got one in the book for the evidence lockup. And the matchup on the floor plan, when you take a look at this, there's not going to be much of any kind of evidence lockup in the floor plan of that, if you're in fact putting the footprint of the morgue inside the footprint of the evidence.
It's not inside. It is
Where is it?
added on to the original estimated space that we needed for the sheriff's department. So in effect, the building's gonna be at least probably twice the size of what we'd originally planned.
I apologize, I get after you, but I really, it's happened. Go ahead.
One thing I want to bring up with this that I don't think was mentioned, but the report is one of the issues that we're having with the coroner's office and the sheriff's. Something I want to point out is the decedents sometimes are evidence. And that's the issue that we're having is the chain of custody with these bodies, especially when we have an overdose. It's very hard to go after somebody. You have to find, it has to be one drug. Sheriff, let me know if I'm getting this wrong. We have to have chain of command so we can actually prosecute these people that are selling drugs that are killing people. Same thing with the homicide that we had in Oshkosh yesterday. That's considered evidence. So if we're doing an evidence locker, this is one of the things that I talked with. It came out of a small cohort meeting between the coroner, the sheriffs, and the DA. This is a need that we have in the county. Is that evidence isn't just cars. Sometimes it's bodies. In the last couple of years, we've had a lot of bodies that are considered evidence. We've had a lot of overdoses. Those are all considered that. Same thing with the homicide. So this is more than just building a morgue for the coroner's office, soon to be medical examiner on January 1st. But this is also has to do directly with evidence. And I don't want it to sound cold. Bodies sometimes are that.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, how many beds does Allegheny County have for more, or how many coolers do they have?
I don't know. I don't know if they have them. Sure.
They do not. They do not
They
have.
don't know how many.
They do not.
How many does one like have? They do our autopsies. How many coolers do they have?
They have 2 coolers.
2 coolers, and we're gonna build 12. So basically 6 times what, Fond du Lac does all our autopsies.
No, I'm sorry. Fond du Lac has 2 walk-in coolers.
How many bodies
So
do they hold?
they can house, I believe it's 20, probably somewhere around 24.
So they have ample storage. I
But
mean, do we really need 12 units? I mean, 6? I mean, for evidence lockers, for, I would think most people would want to get their loved one buried. You know, you take some samples of their tissue and, you know, things like that. I don't think we're gonna keep them for like the bait vehicle for 20 years. You know, I mean, I know if it was my loved one, I surely would want to get him buried as soon as possible and take the evidence you need from the corpse. But I don't want my loved one stored in a cooler for 6 months. You know, I think it's an bigger than we need. We could get by with 6. And the building is fine. We gotta maintain it. You know, you don't have people to clean the buildings we got right now because you're short-handed. You know, so it's not that we spend $1.3 million to build it. That's all it was. We can get that out of the ARPA funds, but we gotta maintain it. You know, and where do we balance the budget from in November?
This is the second time for you. Go ahead.
Right. And if you don't mind, I'd like to ask the coroner to let us know how many bodies that we are paying for in storage and how many funeral homes, and about average, what is that costing us a year?
As far as storage goes.
Right.
Right now, we are not paying for storage.
And that's about to change?
Because we are utilizing the mobile more, that company was nice enough to loan us. They wanted that, understandably. We will be, right now, we'll be paying $225 for transportation from the scene to storage. There'll be an additional $165 for transportation from storage to Fond du Lac for autopsy. While we're awaiting the autopsy, which is anywhere between 5 to 11 days that they're being stored. The amount is to be determined, but it will not be more than $50 a day. That is it. So we'll be paying to have them stored.
$15.
$50 a day before they go to autopsy.
So 5% on $1.3 million is $65,000 a year. You think you would incur storage of $65,000 a year?
Not necessarily a year, but over time we will.
Well, that's what the interest we put on that $1.3 million per year.
With having our own board, we would also be able to do our own transportation. So that would knock out about 30 to 40,000 a year that we would save for transportation.
But you will our vehicle too.
We have a vehicle.
But you have to replace it more often. You gotta get on it. It ain't free. It's 50 cents a mile.
Question for that.
Yes, sir.
So then do we have to hire an examiner too, or?
You mean we would still utilize Fond du Lac to do our
Okay.
for that services.
Go ahead, Mike.
I have to point out what I think is essentially a typo on the resolution. The budget transfer that was approved by both facilities and judiciary public safety is for $1,524,580.
Right.
The resolution somehow says $1,154,580. I don't know, I checked with Mike by email, it needs to be the $1.5 million figure, right? That's the add to the 300,000 something already approved, so I'd ask the committee if you advance this to amend the resolution, change the figure $1,154,580 to $1,524,580.
I've got that down. I saw that too. Yeah.
I let John talk, but I guess I would like to just table this for today. Outagamie County doesn't even have one. You know, they're bigger than we are. They're getting by without basically spending $1.3 million. It's a want, not a need. And when we come to balance this budget, we already passed an awful lot of wants. And we better keep our track on the needs, because there's a lot of needs this county still needs. I won't support it. I just think that it's something we really don't need. We can borrow a trailer if we have to have one, but to spend that kind of taxpayers' money, if it was necessary, Outagamie County would have one. They're bigger than we are. They have more people than we have. And they're getting by without it. So it's like, I'm not going to support it because I don't think we can afford it.
Was that a question to me? A couple things that I would respond to that. Number one, there is some revenue source from the tissue lab in this. So there is a way for this to actually generate revenue as well. on top of that, I think we were hit harder than Allegheny was with the overdose deaths. And I've had so many families talking to me about how do we put these people in jail. It's one of those things where any cost for me is a policy decision for me. If it makes it easier to put somebody away for selling drugs that killed somebody, that's worth it to me. But it's not my policy decision to make. That's why I passed my smell test. That's why it's here. That's why we've been working on this together. It's not something I took lightly. This is something that we've talked through with the sheriff and the DA and through the Fatality Overdose Review Board. And we have to do something to get over this epidemic that's happening in our community with all these people dying. We have to start being able to go after people that are selling the drugs that are causing people to overdose. And this just makes our chances better, I believe. I think that's why as a team, we all agree that this should go forward. So I want to let you know that this wasn't just a want for us, from us, this felt like. But I do understand what you're saying. I appreciate that.
No, I just, like I said, I can't support it. Allegheny County doesn't have one. They're getting by with all of it. We spent a lot of money this year, and we have a lot more things that are in the capital improvement that we need to commit to. We have a trailer that's working just fine. We can borrow another trailer. I don't know what it costs to buy a trailer that you can unplug when you don't need it.
Yeah, sure.
But if you look at the size of this building, it's 116.4 feet long and 52 feet wide. It's got basically a cooler, a vestibule, an examining room, a waiting room, a work and rec, an office, a records, a toilet, a shower. We gotta maintain all that. We gotta heat and cool it, you know? And maybe if it was even 6 bodies, I would be on board. But I can't believe that all 12 of them are gonna be full and we couldn't downsize this to half of what we're spending. You know, it's like, everybody wants a Taj Mahal. You know, everybody likes to drive an Escalade, but if you can only afford an Envoy, that's what you drive, you know? And I think this is way more than what we need, and we could scale it way back and bring it back, but I won't support that. And
Any other questions? Don?
I'd like to know what kind of a hardship it would be if we did not move the offices. We built this without the offices.
Well, who are you asking that?
As far as having the offices out there, it would just be, I guess, a matter of convenience in some sorts. Right now, we've been making it work with driving back and forth to the mobile morgue. Sometimes it's 3-4 times a day, whether we're, intaking and putting body in there, or maybe in livery out there to pick them up, take them down. So that's a matter of convenience as far as that goes, but that we would also be close to where we work. It's hard to draw toxicology on them when we're standing in a the trailer does have racking on the sides. So it's not that we're, putting them on the floor or anything like that. So that part is, but still it's the fact that we are putting these people, loved ones, in a trailer. I tell the families that, we'll be taking, your loved one back to our facility, because I don't want to say we'll be taking him out to the sheriff's department and putting him, in the trailer for the 11 days before we can get them to autopsy.
You're getting,
Yeah, not for me. Cheryl, I would like you to, we were very fortunate to get this trailer. Could you let Supervisor Bender know how much the rental would have been on that?
The rental for 7 months would have been $70,000. To purchase that trailer, it would be $121,000. But therefore, still, we're putting these decedents in a trailer. So, and we did at one point in November, we had 9 bodies, they're decedents, all over the county. So it was a matter of, here we are on an overdose scene. We were calling funeral homes to say, hey, would you have room to store this body for us. We were doing that on scene, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, whatever time it may be. We would get delivery service to come, take them to that funeral home.
Okay. What is your feeling about having the morgue attached to your evidence garage? And the evidence garage being, is the evidence garage going to remain the size it, you know, was designed to be, or are you losing some of that space to offices?
No, it remains the size that we requested. This is just an addition, and as far as the coroner's office being there, the bodies being stored there, that they're oftentimes their evidence. We just had a meeting yesterday. I believe it was between 35 and 40 additional overdoses that were stopped because of Narcan a month. That's what we're averaging. We get a bunch of meth or heroin or some new drug that is being added to it, which often happens, 35 to 40 a month. So I know that there's discussion about whether or not we need this or not. This drug problem's not going away. And ours are, we're not getting any younger. Our baby boomers, I mean, you look at the amount of deaths that we have, it's increasing. And part of it is the aged society that we have, but then add the drug overdoses that we have and them often being evidence so we can hold people accountable.
Where is this whole thing being built? That's
It's being built out on the sheriff's grounds.
right.
the Jail grounds.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think I could vote for this if the offices weren't there. But I don't think we'll vote yes on this. Also, do we know why the abstention was on judiciary?
Mr. Winter abstained because he felt that it should have went to
Say that
judiciary.
over, I was.
I'm
what I
sorry.
am.
Mr. Wingren, Supervisor Wingren
Okay.
abstained because from facilities, he abstained because he felt that it should have went to judiciary before it went to the facilities committee. That was his.
So that was the abstention on the facilities count. And how in the world did this thing get voted on and sent to me and via email? It looks like somebody wrote it in.
I wrote that on.
You wrote these in
I
from
did.
judiciary?
That was on the original report.
Okay, I guess we're voting. Some discussion is done. And we've all made our minds up. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And 2 nays. Two, and Betsy's not here.
He's online, I believe.
Is she?
She was,
She
and
was.
she's not there
She's not there
anymore. She's been on and off.
Who was online?
That's it. So she could have been voting?
No, she's not on right now. No, she had.
No, I mean, for the other ones?
No, she's been kind of on and off. So no,
No.
and she didn't raise her hand or anything. I think she just was out listening.
Traveling today, Wi-Fi's probably spotty.
And we use a alternate at this point.
County board chair can serve ex officio, I believe.
Tom,
I would vote for it.
you would.
I understand where it's coming from, but I think this is something the county needs. This drug problem we have.
That would mean that we'd have a 3-2 vote.
We can't do that, can we? Using the,
Board chair serves as. a-
Marianne?
Yeah.
Can we
Just so-
use
chair?
Yeah, if you
to
look
break
at
it?
rule 5.4.
Yeah.
It specifically says the chair shall act as an ex officio member of all committees of the county board. And as an ex officio committee member shall have the power to vote in such committee only in the absence of one or more committee members.
Yeah.
So since Supervisor Ellenberger
Ellenberger. Yeah.
is not available, he may vote.
Okay.
And I also just wanted, just so the board recalls, under 9.15, which was voted on in 2020, when we were dealing with organizational rules. And I know Supervisor Lenz brought this forward, and it is in the rules. And again, this is just to refresh everybody's recollection here. A remote option allows supervisors to attend meetings remotely. The remote option requires the use of the device, application, or combination thereof. Remote option grants supervisors the ability to attend a board or committee meeting as a regular voting member. The remote option requires that the public have equivalent access to remote board members that they would have had if said board member was or in physical attendance. The remote option must allow the chair to mute all remote attendees and must allow supervisors the ability to identify themselves wanting to speak during times that they have the privilege of speaking. Utilization of a remote option requires that the chair or vice chair of the board or committee be physically present at a location that would be open to the public. So if Supervisor Ellenberger were available, but I understand she's traveling.
On and off. Yeah.
Right, right. That's a difference. But if she were, and since you were here, then she could vote.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We
but
have to,
yes, he can
we have
serve
to have a verification of that person, and they have to be, constantly
That's
on.
right. That's right.
Constantly on. So we've just had our ex officiary, our chairman of the board vote, and so we have a 3-2, 3 favored and 2 nays. Got it? Okay. And that would be for the, now there has to be some changes here. Line item 6 is going to get a change in that it should be $1,524,580. Line item 6 in the resolution. Line item 24, the same change. And line item 28, the same change. 1,524,580. You get that? Mr. Elder, you're still on.
Still here, sir. The next item is to request a capital project and funding to build what we've been working on for the last probably 18 months to 2 years to find alternative residential facilities for 980 sexual offenders. And what we've kind of lined up on is building a facility out in the area of the jail that would be 6, if you would want to call them, single unit apartment type buildings, detached or attached. We haven't quite gotten that worked out with the city yet, or the state, but we would have them there and available for us to be placing 980s in there. I do know that we have 2, 3 of them coming out now this summer.
Yeah, potentially.
that we are having to find a place for them to live. And I know I'm not working as hard as the Department of Counsel's office is trying to find other people to place these people, place the people to live. But we have virtually found no place that has worked out to be acceptable to the public, to be acceptable to law enforcement, and to not cost us a lot of money in the long run. The only other option we have is trying to build some kind of facility out into the rural areas of the county, which then opens us up to future development may cause problems for us to keep the people there. This site is surrounded all by county property. We're working to make sure that it's all outside of the 1,500-foot radius of any other property that would affect our use of it. And this is, from what I've heard, the most acceptable location for the public. And it works for the county to get it done. It works for the sheriff's office to keep an eye on the people. And we would be getting revenue from the resident to live in these places. Right now, the mobile home that we've been renting out has been getting us $2,000 a month rent, and they're responsible for upkeep and utilities.
You said they, how many is they, how many are in there?
One right now.
But so can two go in there or three?
That's part of the problems that we're having with, you know, you were here when we designed, and Tom was here, I think, when we designed Parkview. There was a big discussion about double or single occupancy rooms. It was always come down to
Yeah, but them
compatibility.
are for human people. These people aren't even human.
Unfortunately, there's other people that make the decision on whether it's acceptable for them to live together.
Well, how much would it cost to move 3 more trailers in?
It cost us $177,000
A trailer?
a trailer. For that trailer out there was $177,000 to put that up. The part of the problem that we've got is I doubt that we would get the zoning approval from the city to put multiple trailers up there. When we put the first trailer up there, they said, you know, if you expand this, we don't want a trailer park up there. So these would be a more permanent structure, granted. But if there ever came a time that we may not have to have 980s there, they would also be available for us to rent out to regular sex offenders that could live there. And if that ever came to a point where we never had to use that again, then we could use them for another alternative use.
Before we get into questions, I think we need to make a motion and a second.
Move for the resolution titled authorize a capital project and funding of $1,068,427 from bond proceeds to design and construct the residential facility for the release of 980 sexual offenders.
We have a second. We have a second. Steve? Second. Dave?
Wait a second.
Second.
I just think it's way too much money to spend for.
You want to second it?
I would like to see. Second it.
And I,
You can second it.
I'll second it. I'll give you my reason why. Though, too.
Go ahead.
We had one of these that moved out into our area. He didn't move out, I apologize. He didn't move out, he wanted to. And they're human beings and all this and that yet, but I can just tell you, if you put these out in the neighborhood, it turned out quite a ruckus. We even had an older lady that threatened to get a gun. and everything else. The sheriff's department spent a lot of time out there, just calming her down. 1,500 feet anymore, that don't mean 1,500 feet. If they're across the road, that's not attaching. So they've got to be attached and 1,500 feet away. So I just think, you know, do we want to let these out on the street? Are you gonna let them move in by you? Someplace these people gotta go. And supposedly they gotta go back to Winnebago County. And if they come back here, they're gonna be looking for spots and $80,000 houses or whatever, they'll just fix it up a little bit, good enough for them to live in. And then it's no fun when you've got to go ahead and work with people. I hate to say it, but I don't want them for a neighbor. I don't know if any of you want them for a neighbor and you're gonna say, no, I live in the town, or no, I live here, or I got kids or whatever. Well, what about if it was this, like this older lady? What if it was your mother or your grandmother? They could move in by them. I just think having them all together, they're that close to the sheriff's department, I think that's where these people need to be. Because you gotta remember that the sheriff's department isn't the person that gets the signal. That they got an ankle bracelet on, but it goes from there, it goes to the state, and the state's got to notify the sheriff's department. But it isn't like they get an automatic right away from there. So I just think you better think about it before you vote, but that's just my opinion.
Don?
This is state mandated, and we can get fined a lot big. We don't do it, and we could still end up building this thing anyway, even if after all the fines. I don't think we have a choice. A lot of work has been put into figuring our best option out, right? And I trust that this is the best option.
You have something to say, Marianne?
I would just say, given the nature of all of this, we never know when we are going to be faced with a 4-month deadline to find housing for these 980 offenders. And I know a lot of you have heard this before, and I don't want to, nagging you on this. But about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, we were in court on a matter that has actually been pending for about 6 or 7 months. We had found housing for one of these 980 offenders, actually in the trailer on County Line. And we had satisfied all of the requirements per statute, which basically impose geographic parameters, all right? The state had said, well, wait a minute, we don't think this is reasonable because there's another parameter. We're saying we've met our obligations. We are still in court. We found housing for this 980 offender last July. And that offender is still in Boston at Sandridge because we are in the middle of litigation because the state is saying, well, wait a minute, we don't think it's reasonable. Now, when we were walking into court 3 weeks ago, and I know Chairman Egan was there, I was advised, oh, by the way, one of our doctors has flipped on us. And so the person who we thought was going to have an outright release is now going to have to be a 980. So you're going to have to find housing for that person. And by the way, the clock is starting to tick as soon as the court issued that order. And I was also told, and guess what? I hate to tell you this, but there's another offender who is from Winnebago County who will probably be subject to supervised release this summer. So right now, we have to find housing for 2 and possibly 3 people. I found out about these other 2 people probably about 3 weeks ago. So again, I think it is critical to get housing so we can avoid this potential $1,100 a day penalty, which totals to about over $400,000 a year per offender. That's basically what I just wanted to, and again, I know all of you have heard this.
The other thing, in lieu of issuing the penalties or the fines, the judge in Racine County ordered Racine County to build a facility. So, we're trying to be proactive with this program and get ahead of the wave. But with the individual that we've got that's going before the courts, again, it's up to the judge to determine how he's going to decide where this person gets placed. And, it could very well be that he orders us, or she orders us, I don't know who the judge is this time, that we build a facility, because Door County's building a facility. Racine County was ordered to build a facility. We've put a trailer out there in one place. It appears to be that when we were on the cutting edge of it 3 years ago, this seems to be the solution that has been the route that multiple counties have been forced into going to. And as Mr. Egan stated, I don't think this problem is going to go away. And even if all the 980s that we know about in Sandridge are gone, I'm sure there's people that are still serving time in the prisons that are going to be classified as a 980 sometime in the future. And I just know I've watched, and the frustration that people have had trying to find a landlord to find an existing facility, put people in, it's just not there. And when they do find a place that they meets the parameters, and then the public gets involved in it, it goes away. I know in the past, some of the arguments that we've had when we've looked at properties, when they did the site survey and the residents found out that we were going to buy that property or lease that property for a sex offender, it got taken off the market.
Right.
So, I hate to go belabor the point, but, I feel, one, as a taxpayer, I have to agree with everybody. I don't want them in my neighborhood. And as a taxpayer, I don't want us to be forced into something at the last minute and have to pay expedited costs. We've spent a lot of time looking at this, and I think we've come up with something that is workable. But the market's being what the markets is. This is what the prices are.
And I also want to be perfectly clear, and I know we've raised this before, because we have been trying to think out of the box. Because as Mike Elder says, the judge is the one who has the ultimate decision as to yay or nay on this. But at one point, when we were trying to be proactive and saying to the state, okay, we would like you to give us your blessing. If we were to spend this money, I would like your signature saying, yeah, this is fine. They would not give that to us, okay? So then we went back and said, well, again, we have the judge who's making the ultimate say. However, could we repurpose these? And Mike Elder and the committee said, yeah, we could repurpose for using not the serious 980 sex offenders, but other sex offenders. And if that didn't work, we could do something else. So again, we do not want to be basically put in a corner, which we were a few weeks ago when I was notified there are going to be 2 other potential people coming. So anyway, I just wanted to work.
Mr. Chairman, this is my second time, I just wanted to also let everyone know that the sex offenders, Winnebago County, none of them come from the townships. Majority of them are from the city of Oshkosh. Is there one in Neenah?
Fox
Crossing.
Crossing.
And so, and that's what's happening, is they're trying to get them out in the rural areas. And then that's that much farther for the sheriff's department to be there also.
That one Rushford that we heard from you about, that was about a kicker for me. I just don't understand why we have to go that far out in the hinterlands in order to take care of some of these. But we've got to have a sheriff run a kitty route back and forth to take a look on it.
The judge in that case felt that we could not, I'm talking about the Wolf River case.
No,
Sorry, you're
it's
talking about
Rushford.
Rushford. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't mind. So it does give us, we drive by the trailer, and then, no exaggeration, 30 times a day, we fuel up. That's where our guys come into the office. So it is watched extremely close. And, as the chairman, Egan stated, the response time for an ankle violation, it has to go down to Madison. Then that violation is sent up to a probation supervisor up here who confirms whether or not it's a equipment violation, whether or not it's a software violation. We're talking a substantial amount of time before we're even notified that this guy has gone missing. So have them in the rural parts of our county, because it's the only place they can go, really. Every place else in the city of Oshkosh or in municipalities will not fit the statutory criteria. So they go out to the rural areas and as pointed out, none of them came from the rural areas, they came from the cities. And this is the right thing to do. We do receive a substantial amount of rent, $2,000 for the trailer. The town of Wolf River was that private person who owned that was receiving $2,800 a month. So it's substantial income that comes in. I know that there's substantial cost associated with it, but there's also substantial income.
Okay, discussion over. How are we doing? Everybody understand what they want to vote?
I know, I had my hand up 3 times.
Oh,
I
geez.
wouldn't mind speaking.
Go ahead and say.
Well, how many units are we gonna get for 535,000?
For 535,000?
That's what it says, building 535,000, site work 66,000. How many units are we getting?
That would be 6 units.
6 units. And you actually think you're gonna build 6 units for 535,000, or did you like the boathouse? That this guy wrote you this estimate and he's not gonna bid on it. And if you could really get this for $1 million, I'd be all on board. I know it's not gonna be $1 million. This is gonna be $1.5 million, $1.8 million. You know, you paid $177,000 for a trailer that's got a holding tank. It's got a partial basement. And now you're gonna build this little house. The sewer by the highway department is way out by the salt shed. You know, you're gonna have to excavate hundreds of yards to get to the sewer. And for the site work, you know, you only got $168,000 for basically the 6 concrete pads, the utilities for all of them, all the way, running the water there. I know these numbers aren't real.
To answer that question, no, the numbers are never real until we get the bids back. And the bids are whatever the market will be, this is our best estimate. The architects that we've had have also contracted with contractors to give them an estimate. But you're right, we don't know what the price is gonna be until we actually get the bid.
And I was reading for the Kaufman building where they got to remodel that. They require 3 bids, otherwise they won't award a bid. Can you add that to your bids? Because when we get 1 bid, we're not really getting a bid. We're getting basically somebody that looked and see on demand chart, nobody took out a bid. So, well, we'll throw a high bid in there. If we get it, great. If we don't, but when we remodel that building in the contract, it says they have to receive 3 bids or they're invalid. And I could see so many of our bids come in with 1 bid and basically, well, we gotta take it. Nobody else, we can't send it out for rebids unless we modify it substantially. Well, it's the same with this. This contract here probably won't even bid on it, that gave you an estimate, and then somebody else is gonna bid on it for $2 million, and you're gonna come back to us and say, well, it's the only bid we got, we really can't do anything about it. So is there some way you can write in that we have to have 3 bids in order to make the bids qualify?
No, because state statute says we have to award it to the lowest responsible bidder. If there's only 1 bidder, that's the lowest responsible bidder.
Then how do they get by with that in the Kaufman Center?
Because that's a lease. They won't sign the lease with us unless they have 3 bids. So, they just won't, if we don't get the 3 bids, they'll move out.
I think there's a lot more contractors that do this kind of work.
Well, it could be,
Than the bulls.
I think we all know that you're not gonna build that unit for that price. I mean, that trailer cost $177,000 3 years ago before the pandemic. Them units are gonna cost a whole lot more than that. And I just like realistic prices, I guess, and I don't believe this is a realistic price. I'll support it, But it is not a realistic price. I know that when the bids come in, they're gonna be substantially higher, and you're gonna come back to us and you're gonna tell us, well, you know, we can't change it because we already bid it out, and, you know, this is what we have to live by. So then we're gonna be paying probably $1.8 million. And I would just like to know what it really costs up front, rather than basically get these like bait and switch. You know, it's like, I used to buy cars and the guy would tell me, yeah, we're gonna sell you, oh, you don't qualify for this rebate, you don't qualify for that, when I get there. You know,
Okay.
and I just feel like that's what I get here. I get a nice low figure that if I could sign on the dotted line today as a county board member, I'd sign on it in a heartbeat. But I know that that's not gonna be priced.
Steve, can we vote now?
I'm done.
You're done, okay. We're gonna vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That means it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
4. There's 5.
There's 5. We got Tom. Tom is equal.
Tom's the vote.
5-0. We're still not done with this. Then I gotta get together. I'm gonna show you my little notes here. Okay, and we're done with all of this. Okay, so we're now on to a resolution. Authorize the capital project and funding of $259,900 from bond proceeds to design and construct a remodel USDA office suite. That's at the Conway building.
And this is a capital project to do the remodeling that the USDA has requested for the office suite that they've occupied since 1998. We've gone through multiple iterations of them being in the building. When we built the building in 98, the suite met their needs. Sometime in the early 2000s, they cut their staff in half. They cut the space that they occupied in half. They reduced their lease. Now they're coming back to us. They want to go back to essentially the same size suite that they had when we first built it to in 98, but they want these modifications made to it. And this is all based on what they're saying they need. They need a computer room. The computer room has a fixed window in the top of it. They want that window out. Because we're putting their server cabinet now into a closed room, we have to put air conditioning in there. Because we're putting up walls in the conference room for them, now we have to redo the ventilation system, we have to redo the lighting system, we have to add electrical outlets, we have to modify the carpeting and do some demolition to existing walls. It's a significant change to their suite. And the estimates that we got from the architect that we had involved comes up to about $259,900. That will be reimbursed through an increase in their rent over a period of 3 years. That's the fixed time that they want to be in the building. They do intend on having a 10-year lease, but only the first 3 years are fixed. So the plan would be that we recover those costs in the first 3 years. Then in years 4 through 10, their rent would go down to basically double what they are paying right now. But they would like, as Mr. Bender said, they would like three quotes. So basically I have to go and do the design work, put out a bid package, put it out, advertise it to get the 3 quotes, to go back to them to say, this is what it's really going to cost. We'll see if they accept it. If they don't accept it, then it's up to them what they want to do. They either change their plans or they vacate the building and go someplace else.
David has a question.
So what's the total years? What will be the total years?
Of the lease?
Yeah.
It would be a 10-year lease with 3 years firm, which means at the end of 3 years, they could move to terminate the lease. They're basically promising they won't terminate it for 3 years.
How do you recover in 3 years that kind of money? And then,
I tell them their rent's $125 a square foot and they either pay it or they don't. And if they don't pay it, they leave. It's not like, it's not like they don't know that they're asking for changes. And I tell them this is what the changes are gonna cost. And we've added on our administrative costs. We haven't added on a profit, but we have covered our costs to do this work. And if by good fortune it comes in less, then, their lease would be less.
let's read in the motion and have a second to it.
I move for a resolution titled authorizing capital project and funding of $259,900 from bond proceeds to design and construct a remodel of the USDA office suite to conform to general services administration lease requirements.
Steve seconds. Okay, any further questions? Don, you got any questions? How about you? Okay, we'll vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tom? Okay, 5-0.
You buy him a popsicle with the
Well, you started anyway. We gotta finish with you now.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. All right, we're on line item 12. Has to do with creating a department of administration, amending a table of organization for administration, finance, human services department, and transferring the budgets to the Department of Administration. And Mr. Collard, why don't you explain this, please?
Well, this would be a proposal to create a Department of Administration. The Department of Administration would include, some of the current functions of the Human Resources Department and the Finance Department, specifically the risk management functions in Human Resources, which include property and liability insurance, workers' compensation, and safety initiatives for county employees and facilities. It would also include the purchasing and general services functions that are currently in the finance department. So there'd be purchasing manager as well as the general services employee who essentially does printing and mail tasks. In addition to that, though, the director of administration and the administration department, would be responsible for overall direction of finance, human resources, information systems, and those three departments, making sure the internal service departments, if you will, have appropriate coordination and direction, making sure that we're being efficient and that we frankly have resources to respond to all the new projects and initiatives that have been coming down the pike. The world has changed enormously since I started. When I started, the director of human resources job was a big job and a difficult job. It's probably twice what it is now, what it was then. Probably the same thing for the director of finance. As you know, we've had a very difficult time recruiting a regular director of finance position. And I think this would potentially ease that situation, make it more likely we'd be able to find someone, because we'd be taking a little bit off the plate, making it a little bit more manageable job. And also we'd be able to consider candidates who have less county experience, because the director of finance would be working with and reporting to someone who does have substantial county experience and could take on the role of providing liaison with the board and information to the board. Also, certainly in the past months, we, as a county, started an initiative to really provide a lot more information earlier on to committees, providing the agenda item reports, providing the resolutions. 6 months ago, those weren't done until after, those weren't even drafted until after the personal and finance committee. And I think it's tremendously valuable, in my opinion, to see those things up front. It's been difficult to do that. It's been very time consuming. And so I think creating a Department of Administration, be able to focus a little bit more on providing support to the board and further information would be beneficial. Got a draft job description included in the proposal, sort of an organizational chart showing generally how things would work. The budget transfers are complicated only because I had to carefully evaluate, how much money we had available in finance that could be transferred over based on all the changes that we have, how much money we had available in human resources that could be transferred over, how much money is available from that, and how much new money would be needed. So comes to for the remainder, second of the year. The board were to pass this and take effect July 1. Designated general fund balance needed would be $36,925, in addition to the labor amounts that could be transferred over from the other departments. So we see this as advancing the cause of professional management of the county. We need more upper level management rather than less, frankly, because of the demands that the changing world have placed on us. We just list. If I look at the agenda today with PNF and maybe the last 2 months, that's more than we used to do all year in terms of the number of different projects. Well, it's my perception. So that's the proposal. The numbers are there. Just with provide us, I think, better direction in terms of coordination among all departments, providing better information to the board and being able to react better to all the different projects that are coming down the pipe. So,
You done? You've said no?
Yes.
How is it that you're an acting finance director with gifts of personnel and an understanding of finance? And we, honestly, we've not posted well enough to go out and get a finance director to take the place of the one that is no longer with us. You know how to do that. You were asked to do that in January. I've got a posting from Sheboygan in the Wicca book, okay, in a magazine. We haven't gone out and really found candidates to take that spot over. And you're vacating it now to plan to go into this, become the administrator. Is that what I understand?
Oh, well, to fill the position, we go through proper channels, which would be to post the position, and it would be the county executive's decision. So I have to say that. If I think it'll be me, yes, I'm not going to try to hide that.
No.
But we have posted the director of finance position. We have made a serious attempt to recruit the director of finance position. It's been on 7 or 8 different websites, including the Wisconsin Counties Association website for months. You didn't put an ad in. The ad is, in my opinion, not an effective ad in the county's magazine. It's not a particularly effective tool. we haven't used that, but we have made a serious effort for months to try to attract candidates to that position. What we found is that half a dozen other counties are also trying to recruit finance directors at the same time. There's a shortage of people with those qualifications. The best applications we've received are for people who don't have significant county level experience. And so I don't think could step into that role, in my opinion, without someone looking over what they do and assisting them with the details of county operations and county board relationships, which are very different than other organizations. So I think we need that. I think we need someone to be, in that central role and provide guidance to those departments and provide assistance and support to the county board. And it's becoming overwhelming to do with the staff we have, frankly, and some team we have. So currently, obviously, I am acting as finance director. It's it's been long enough. We'd like to resolve that very much. Mr. Habeck is acting HR director. That's not a permanent held position now. That leaves human resources a position short because we can't fill Mark's permanent position. So
He's doing a good enough job that you want to leave him there.
I think he is, but that again,
And
go
this
through
is
proper
not,
procedures to make Mark the permanent
this is,
human resources director would require appointment by the executive.
this is not a closed session, so we're not gonna get into any more of that.
No, I'm not, and I don't want to tie this decision to any particular individuals. I'm just saying that I think the structure will work better with an overall manager responsible for the administrative departments. There are a number of other counties that have similar type of arrangement. Fond du Lac County, for instance, their resources director left, so the director of administration had to step in and direct the human resources department. That's currently their status.
Were you at the business meeting the last business meeting that we had? Were you at that meeting?
I was on Zoom.
You were.
Yes.
Did you hear Andy Phillips
Yes.
explain how we have to go about if we want to change from executive to an administratively functioning county? We have to go through a vote. We have to go to the people and ask them what they want.
I understand that, but this would not be a county administrator position. That would be a very different thing that would be in place of a county executive. So that would require petition and action by the board.
That's correct.
That's not what this position would be. This position would not have that type of authority.
I think that the board needs to look at this. The board needs to make the decision as to whether we're going to change directors again, whether we're going, the direction of our entire operation is going to change to an administrator's function.
Or will.
That takes a 3/4 vote. It doesn't take a 2/3 vote. Maybe we can realize that. No,
I'll make a motion to move forward if you're ready for that. Second.
make a motion of the resolution, please.
Resolution creating a Department of Administration, amending the table of organization for administration, finance, human resources department, transferring budgets to the Department of Administration.
Don, you want to second that?
I
He
got some
made the
questions.
motion, Steve seconded it, didn't he?
Steve made the motion. Don seconded it. Now, let's have a little discussion. Go ahead.
My first concern would be the salary. You're the second highest paid in the county behind Dr. Topol. What would the salary for this position be? Because you're already the second highest paid. So what would this position be paying?
Well, according to county policy, the grade for the position would be set by the human resources director after the position was created by the county board. But so Mark would make that decision officially rather than I, but there's only one grade that would make sense, which is current grade 31. We're not asking for an expansion of the salary schedule to put this position. So grade 31 is currently the grade for Dr. Topol's position, as well as the Corporation Council. I believe those are the only two positions currently in grade 31. So I would anticipate this director of administration position would also be grade 31.
And then if I could, I'd like to amend it to take out the bachelor's degree or higher. I'd like to make it where you have to have a master's degree in public administration or another advanced degree in a related preferred field. I just think for somebody at this level, they have to have more than a bachelor's degree. And we have to require a master's degree in business or public administration. And I don't know if you have that or not. We're not hiring a person, we're writing a job description. And that would be a requirement if I'm going to support this. I want somebody that basically is a public administrator that can give us the guidance that we need to move this county in the direction we want to go. And if I get a second on that, that's the only way I'll support this.
So am I. Go ahead.
As of right now, unless something gets changed or whatever, I don't think I can support this. Nothing against John or whatever, our county executive. But I just feel as though this county is moving everything towards that administrator. I know you don't want to say that, but it just seems like this person is going to be answering to the county executive. So all these things now are going to be going to the county executive, plus transfer the budget department of administration. Everything is going to go there. I mean, he might not be doing it, he'll be doing it, but whose boss is that person? I keep on saying him, whether he gets it or not. That's the person they're looking at. So all these heads of departments all answer to our county executive, whoever it may be. And I'm just afraid that if this goes into effect, the county board gradually is going to lose full control. If they have say over the budgets and everything, we're not going to have control anymore. We might just, well, say, here you go. That's my only concern. Like I said, nothing with John, I'm saying county executive.
I think our county operates very well at the way it's operating right now, and I would like to see it stay that way.
Go ahead.
John was trying to say something. I'd like to know what he's saying, wants to say.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This does not change the form of government that we have. It won't change any of the board policies. It would simply have an administrative position in there. If you think of us as an organization, we're an organization with a $190 million budget, with 1,200 employees. Organizations out there that exist have a CEO, which would always be the county executive, whoever that is, and a COO, which is the chief operating officer, which what this position is. Right now, we have multiple department heads that are learning how to do agenda item reports and figure out budget transfers and figure out the draft resolutions, which are something new here. So that we can see the language, that each committee can see the language that's getting passed. So it's somebody to help coordinate those efforts, and it'll take a little bit of the capacity out of every department head's plate, as well as department heads that are really at capacity, and that's finance and HR. We have three large projects coming to all three of those departments right now. We have a wage study and a comp plan evaluation going on in HR. We have ARPA funding and reporting that's going to be coming through finance. And we also have Office 365 that's going to be implemented in IAS in 2024. Those are three huge projects that a director of administration would be able to help with. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to change to administrative county. We'll always be an executive county. Now, you mentioned Andy Phillips' presentation. I thought Andy Phillips did a really good job. I thought he let us know what our roles and responsibilities were. The one thing that I want to mention is when he said that the job descriptions of a board member, no matter what you had in your past, where are you 18, do you live there, and are you felon? These are the same three things that apply to my position, the county executive. Now, when I talked to Alan Beagle, because Alan Beagle was a confidant for me when I first got here, could you do it without your director of administration? Very simply, Al told me no. And now we look at the situation where Al Beagle passed away suddenly last year or this year. I'm in not the best shape of my life. It very well could happen to me. And Tom, you're the next man up. You're the one that comes and sit in the seat. So for that continuity of government, we make sure things keep running smoothly. That is what this director of administration would do. When there is an election change, when I took over for Mark Harris, you would have a director of administration to have some continuity of government for all of our department heads to help with that transition. This is something that we should set our county up for, and the reason I'm asking for it. Now, the 1987 Arthur Young report, I know I've beaten this thing over and over again, but it had so many recommendations for Winnebago County to do. We did 0 of them. Now, this is one that we're asking to do out of that report. Now, if you look at a CEO of any organization that's out there, that's not just private business. You know, that's nonprofits and that's other governments as well. I have 17 direct reports, soon to be 18. And I also have to collaborate with 6 elected officials. And we're doing that. We're doing that. We're treading water. You guys are getting more information than you've seen in the last year, and I think these are good things. Now, you mentioned that there was votes missing in some of the agenda item reports. Cheryl needs somebody to help guide her to make sure that those are done. The capacity where I'm at is already full. Capacity where Mike as interim finance director, and I think he's doing a fine job, is full. The capacity that Mark has as interim HR director is absolutely full. The capacity that Patty has right now, trying to figure out how we stream all these meetings, is full.
Yes, sir.
I have take one of your number threes away. You have money in there to hire somebody to do the wage study. There's money in the budget for you to have a wage study, so that'll take one of your 3 things away.
We've got the wage study out for bid right now,
Okay, that was my thing.
but I mean, there's more than just putting out the bid,
I
obviously.
understand, but not to the degree that he's emphasizing. I don't think. It's my opinion again.
Yeah, Don.
I think these guys are doing us a great big favor to this county. They could easily over to one of these other counties that need somebody. You know, if they feel that we need this. then we need it.
When Miss Fitzgerald was in that seat, we didn't seem to have a loss of investment portfolio. We didn't seem to have a loss of the CAFR that isn't getting done right now, or the audits. We didn't seem to have a problem of keeping up in the finance department because the people were there. Now we have people missing in critical spots. I think there's some management issues that have to be addressed. I can't see trading seats to get to it, putting somebody in another spot so that we have, we're just stirring the pot. We're not really getting anything done. Not there. I can't stand up for this. It's not going to be something I will vote for.
I'll just say that, I'm going to support it. El Vico died, and if there wouldn't have been somebody to step up and know how to run the county, there would have been no county executive. County board chairman would be running the county. And let's face it, most county board chairmen got full-time jobs. You know, they didn't sign up to be a 50-hour-a-week county exec. And who's, like when John came in, who could train him? Nobody. Mark left, that was it. Here's the office, you know, there was nobody to basically say, well, this is what we're working on, this is the procedures, the policies. He had to basically try to figure it all out with his office assistant, you know, and I just think the county in the last year, we're struggling, you know, I mean, Parkview is down to 129 beds at 165 bed nursing home, you know, I mean, we're not doing our citizens justice by not having full staff there, you know, and we need to address that issue. And one man can only do so much, you know, I mean, maybe with the administrator, he can basically help recruit. We either have to pay more money, get better benefits. I mean, I can look back at the highway department, all the stuff they've lost in the last 8 years. That was the reason why I left. I would have worked a few more years, but I got sick of them taking things away from me. Every time the budget came, we'll take this away from the workers. We'll take this away from the workers. Well, pretty soon there's nothing left to take, you know, and we need somebody to basically be able to look at other counties, and maybe that administrator will have more time. You'll have 80 hours instead of 40 hours. So I'm just looking at, if you're happy the way the county's going in the last year, then don't go for it. Everything's going great. But every department is, we shut down 2 pods in the jail because we got no correction officers. You know, so we sent back 72 inmates to the state, lost that revenue. We got basically 129 beds out of a 165 bed nursing home. That's $12,000 a month. Every 10 beds is 120. That's $400,000 a month we're losing. Well, when we come to balance this budget, believe me, we're gonna feel all this, you know, and where are we gonna get these people from if we don't have somebody that basically maybe do the research to figure out, you know, like we got Parkview coming up next. There's no study of what the other nursing homes are paying. I looked down the, like Evergreen, and they have better things than we, you know, they offer a $2,500 signing bonus if you got 5 years experience or less, 5,000 if you got more. We don't do that, you know. So if I was looking for a job, why wouldn't I go there? You know, a finance director, we're not getting one for 111,000. Don't you think the smart thing would be is that maybe advertise it for 130,000, and then we don't have to pay that, but maybe you'll get a qualified applicant, and you can say, well, we'll do it for. So I think we need an administrator to look into these things because John can't do it all.
Go ahead.
I agree with Supervisor Bender, but I'm just so concerned that it just sounds like it's just gonna be rotating a sheriffs or rotating up. One's gonna be getting more money because he's gonna get a different title. You know, whether it's gonna be or not, but I just have a feeling, and I think it's been pretty much brought out even today, that that's probably the way it's going to be. And so what is that going to help us? Because supposedly these guys are already working together to get this done. Supposedly they're already, he was HR, now he's in the finance, which is good. He's doing us a super job. And nothing got resolved at that time. So I don't know if you think with more money and the better title or whatever you want to call it, you think it's going to be any better there or not?
Well, he won't be in the finance and personnel. He'll be the administrator. So he'll have 40 hours to work on that job. He won't have to basically do the finance or the personnel and human resources. It will be a job basically.
He isn't doing the HR anymore, though. He's got a different person doing it. From what I understand, he's putting in a lot more hours than what he is anyways. Work comes at late at night, he's going home. So I gotta believe he's putting in his full hours and more.
Oh, as a finance director.
Well, no, even as his job that he's doing as finance director too. But I think he's still helping on other things as much as he can. But he is only allowed so much time to do these things. So you have a question over there?
There, yeah.
Sharon?
As a department head, obviously my role is what is legal and what is not. But given the basically last year and a half, based on per council, because we've been on the front lines in a lot of things, and no disrespect to the county executive. But I think it would make my department's life easier if there was a director of administration. And again, this is, outside my realm, because I just do what's legal and what is not, and this is sort of selfish on my part. But County Executive Dable is all over the county, and it's really hard sometimes to get a hold of him. Even though he's available, but I mean, he has a lot going on. And I would just say, and this is my personal observation, that if there was a director of administration, provided they had the requisite qualifications, we talked about a master's of public administration or equivalent or something to that effect, then at least for my department, I think it might make my life and my department's life a little easier.
We're down to a vote. Those in favor?
I support it to the county board. What did you say? I'll vote in favor to get it to county board.
So, no. That would be 3 no's, 2.
Yes to 2 guys.
I'm going to write in the minutes that Steve Binder asked to amend the educational requirement, but it died due to a lack of a second. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep, I'll bring it up at the county board meeting.
All right.
3-2. Item 13. That would be Jim Shell. He's still here. You have 3 line items, 13, 14, and 15, and to do with 2 leases. Approval of ground lease for Felix Auto. Approval of ground lease with Yankee November, and authorization of capital project for Whitman Regional construction of T hangars. I'll explain a little bit.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'll go keep one at a time. I'll start on number 13. You have all the appropriate information, I believe, in your committee packet on this one. But this would be a new ground lease for a private development hangar on the airport. We've got quite a number of these over the years that have been developed. It's the standard format of leasing the entity or the person, in this case, it's an LLC, the ground in order to construct improvements. This lease would allow the lessee to construct a hangar facility, aircraft parking area, and a small area for vehicle parking on the land side of the hangar. And it is typically, as it is in this case, 40-year land lease. In this case, 20-year initial term with 2 10-year option terms thereafter to provide that total of 40 years. It is a land lease aligned with our county ordinance rate for aeronautical land. So that ordinance rate currently is 16 cents a square foot annually. With the total square footage for this development, the base year rental fee comes out at $1,787.04 per year. And each 3-year increment after that increase the, as built into the lease, we increase the rate by the change in the consumer price index. Very standard as far as how we've done these land leases in the past. Does provide to, in this case, this tenant, to construct a facility where we have a very waiting list at times for hangars that we rent out owned by the county. Allows them another avenue with them constructing all the improvements and funding it in order to do that and increases private investment here. So with that, that would be my recommendation to the committee to approve the land lease with Felix Auto and Tire LLC for
Chairman, I will make a motion to approve resolution 13 for ground lease between Felix Auto and Tire LLC in Winnebago County.
Second that? Yeah. Dave, second. You got a question now?
How many hangars do we have that don't have airplanes in them?
All of our hangars currently,
They all have a registered aircraft number.
we do periodic inspections of the hangars that we own and operate, at least annually, to ensure that all the proper information is adequate with what's in our records. So we require to know the type of aircraft, registration number, they have insurance, and that insurance certificate matches that aircraft as well. So we vet that every single year for our lease agreements. So we have 83 hangar units, they're all full currently. Got significant waiting list as well. This specifically is a land lease for private development.
And they want to build a hangar for airport.
Correct. The lease stipulates that the tenant will abide by FAA policy on aeronautical use of hangar space. So that's written in all of our leases now.
And then the asphalting and the tarmac around the hangar is handled by them as well. They
Correct. There's an exhibit included with the lease for the packet that exhibits. Exhibit A on the top. So,
Yeah.
It's actually, yeah, it's exhibit A for the lease. It outlines everything with regard to the footprint of the leased area. Looking at that diagram, let's be looking north on the east side of that, the existing taxiway that the tenant will tie into on the north side of the airport. If you're familiar with the general area of where New View Technology is, and actually just to the north of that. Proposed lease area for the hangar space that they would build, the apron area, and then a small parking area on the land side. So this particular location really works well for the type of development that this gentleman has been proposing. He's been working with us now for a fair amount of time on identifying the site, getting that site plan done already that is included as exhibit A to the lease.
Any other questions? No, Steve?
What will the stormwater runoff cost us added? I mean, we already paid over 400,000. I'm just curious. I mean, it's not gonna, I'm gonna vote for it. I'm just curious, what's that gonna cost us? We're getting $1,700 rent out of it. How much is that gonna cost for stormwater runoff?
So every land lease that we're executing now going forward, I can't speak to land lease that were executed prior to my time with the airport, because there are a number of different variables in those land leases. But it does specify that any fees associated with each development, just like utilities, just like all the improvement costs, the maintenance costs of their assets that they construct on our property, we borne by the lessee. So that is in the lease. And so I don't know offhand what the stormwater bill would be for this development,
What they will assume,
but it is their responsibility for these.
Mr. Shaw? You know what an ERU is?
I do.
Okay. Each one of our houses in Fox Crossing, it's evaluation of what their ERU value is. How much concrete is out, how much runoff they got off of their roof, that kind of thing. Do you do any of that sort of thing with the hangars, with the amount of runoff that you get off of the runways, et cetera? Do you figure out where the dollar amount can be recovered from, so that you're not having to pay the city of Oshkosh for pulling water out of their storm sewers? And they're charging you for that.
Sure. So that, I mean, it's a fairly complicated answer to that question. The city of Oshkosh assesses a stormwater runoff fee, so I think that's to your point. And they base it upon essentially a square footage calculation of impervious surfaces
both buildings and parking lots and those sorts of things like you mentioned. And then equivalating that to what they call ERU, equivalent runoff unit. And they've got a residential rate and a commercial rate. So we understand how they're billing us as far as all the impervious services that the airport has, which is responsible for paying to the city. It's broken apart pretty, by in a pretty complex nature of how they bill us. It's broken apart by parcel, and there's multiple different parcels that make up the airport. So we actually have been working internally on identifying areas that potentially will be passed along to state land lease tenants of prior leases that have been approved in years past. And it is a pretty complex equation. If you understand the city's mathematical equation in order to charge users for these equivalent runoff units, we should probably go to lunch, educate you a little bit better on that, because it is somewhat convoluted. I don't say if that's by design or not, but you know, it would be much more straightforward if we could say this is the square footage or acreage, impervious surface, and that's the rate we can charge. It's definitely more complex calculation.
I was just hoping you'd find some way to recover some of what you're losing.
I'd say the vast majority of I'm kind of getting off, I think, the basis of this specific land lease. However, I would say the vast majority of the stormwater runoff fees we pay to the city are based upon our biggest paid areas. So our runways, our apron areas, the buildings that we own and operate are our largest expense as far as the airport's total budget. However, I'm trying to bring it back to this land lease.
Yeah.
The fees associated with that and many others, as I already mentioned, are the responsibility.
Any other questions? Yeah, Don.
Yeah, I don't need to know this right now today, but could you tell us where that is in the lease for that they're gonna be paying the stormwater?
Sure, yeah.
I just went through the whole thing. Yeah, quickly. I don't need this today. Just tell us on what it is.
So there's a section called lessees taxes. It's a little bit more broad to encompass a lot of things that are listed out in that section. So it states lessees shall promptly pay any and all taxes and assessments levied on or against lessee's property and said premises. All licenses, permits, fees, occupational inspection fees assessed or charged against that premises by the party to this lease by reasonable. Continue on, but any fees associated with the infrastructure, the improvements that they've constructed on a clause. Like, talk about it in more detail.
Since there are no more questions, let's have a vote quick. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The 5-0. Okay, next is item 14. That is the ground lease between Yankee, November, and Winnebago County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. There's a very similar type ground lease to the one we just discussed. This actually will be over on the east side of the airport. There's a diagram that's showing the location and the scope of this land lease. Again, very similar land lease on our property, an existing taxiway for the tenant, proposed tenant to construct a hangar and an aircraft apron area that would tie into the taxiway itself. In this case, I don't believe there'd be any parking area constructed, but that's fairly typical of a lot of the developments that we've got that are over on the air side of the field, where they're not close to the street side access. So this is very much in line with other developments along that taxiway. In fact, The taxiway that this is being constructed on, will be constructed on, contains, just in that section, 4 other private hangars that have been built over the years. So the ground lease, again, same format as the prior, same rate as far as the ordinance rate for square footage. It is a smaller square footage than the prior agreement we just discussed. But at any rate, it comes out to $918.72 per year. Again, with increases built into the lease every 3 years by the adjustment of the price index. So we would recommend approval of the ground lease with Yankee November LLC.
We have a motion. David wants to move that approved ground lease between Yankee November and LLC and Winnebago County be approved. Any second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. We have any discussion? Any discussion? Anybody question? Don, any questions? Okay, we're gonna vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, aye. That's 5-0. Line item 15. This is a capital project for Whitman Regional Airport to construct T hangars and facilities. Give us some of the facts on that, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. So this project really has a fairly long timeline in the fact that we've recognized and identified many years ago the additional or the need for additional hangar space on the airport. We've maintained a long waiting list for folks that are looking to rent space in hangars that we have available to lease on our airport for quite some time. The airport, the county owns 83 individual hangar units at present. A number of them are requiring replacement due to their age and nearing the end of their useful life. So there is a component of replacement that is required of a number of the hangar facilities that are at the airport today. When we look back, as far as county constructed hangars, the last hangar facilities we built on the airport that the county owns or is constructed were built in approximately 2001 over on the north side of the field. So it's been quite a few years since we've constructed hangars out there. And of course, with time and with age, and with building materials that have been used over the years, some of them have aged better than others. We have 174 based aircraft on the field. So roughly half of the based aircraft, virtually almost every aircraft that's based there, is based in a hangar. It's in a hangar space. A little bit more than half are in these privately owned hangars, privately built hangars, and there's a variety of those throughout the airfield. So the last 2 ground leases that we just discussed and approved would be examples of those private infrastructure, private investment in the airport. Currently, all of our hangar space is full, and again, we've got a 50+ person waiting list currently. This project would need to construct 2 new units, 2 buildings of 10 units per building, T hangar spaces. And it would also open up 6 new shovel-ready sites for future development, future hangar development. Primarily along the lines of the ones that we just discussed in the last 2 items, we get a lot of requests for folks to have the ability to lease land and build new hangars up the airport. We'd like to accommodate more of those requests. However, we have a diminishing number of spaces that are shovel ready or have especially taxiway access. And this would create 6 more locations, both on the east and west side of the project site, in order to accommodate those folks and have a shovel ready site for them to look at and to say, yes, this works for what I'm intending to construct, and be able to increase the private investment in the airport as well. Which really just goes back to not only our operational bottom line, but also the economic impact of the airport year round. One change, getting kind of more of the financial component, certainly Mike would like to detail any of the information that was included in the spreadsheet, kind of the updated financial analysis on the project. One change that we're proposing, we heard a lot of comment at the special orders meeting about the rental rate that we initially proposed, which was $295 per month. So we will be proposing in the base year for these hangars to set that rate at $325 per month. And that would not be encompassing of utilities. So that would be base rent. These are heated hangar units, and each individual heater in each unit will be metered separately so that the tenant would pay the cost of their utilities to heat the hangar. So that would not be a burden on the county in order to offer the heater hangar space to the tenant. There's a number of other factors associated with the financial analysis we put together. Probably the biggest of which is this is a long-term capital investment. The depreciation of which we're proposing over 50 years, 50-year depreciation straight line. And while it does take some time to pay its investment back, the project as a whole will be, the request is $3 million to the county board to fund the project. We are supplementing that with $1.3 million of grant assistance, both with federal and state funds on the project. So the $3 million investment does take a fair amount of time to pay back, plus or minus 30 years, as we talked about before. But the facilities we're proposing to construct, concrete floors, bifold doors, steel construction, heated units, number of other amenities that almost none of the other hangar spaces we have currently to offer can measure up to, would certainly be a useful life of plus or minus 7 years. We've got hangars that are built on the north side of the airport back in the 1970s that are still serviceable hangars for us, but are starting to show some signs of age. We've got hangars that are built in the 1970s that have asphalt floors, sliding doors, not the quality of construction that we're proposing for new hangars, but they've served us well for 50 years. And I think to Mr. Stadler's point, as a tenant of ours, spoke favorably about the project, they've more than paid themselves off. And they've contributed to a long-term revenue stream for our operating budget, which is one of the largest areas of our revenue that the airport realizes on an annual basis, is renting facilities, primarily hangar facilities. This project would add to that as far as the annual rental revenue that would be derived. That's been spelled out in the financial analysis as well. And it's a needed project in order to continue to reinvest in the airport, serve a growing demand of folks that want to have their hangar, want to have their aircraft at the airport, but can't because we have probably more than a decade-long waiting list if you're number 50, if we don't construct any new hangars. I'd say the only other point I'd make is that we've got a defined revenue stream to pay back this investment, albeit a long-term investment. I know there's a lot of projects within the county that we fund is because it's a necessity, and might not necessarily always be a revenue stream tied to it. We can point to that in this case, to the point where I think it's a proven investment for the county and to help grow the utility, the usage, and the amenity that it offers county residents at the airport.
I think I've mentioned a number of times with you that I believe in your enterprise out there. There's an enterprise. It's an enterprise operation. You should be making money, turning dollars over and making money there. And I wonder the turnover with the hangars, if there is any, whether you're able to raise rents, whether you're able to, accrue any dollars off of the rentals if they're set so low, for the rental of the lease of the property is set so low.
I have a question. What's the payback for one of these units? Like, how many years will it take to pay it back?
I defer to Director Pollard on that.
So I bought the hangar, so I shouldn't say that. So I'm taking one of these hangars. How many years is the payback for us?
Well, we figured a 50-year payback period, meaning what we did is calculated the overall, amortization schedule as if we have a fixed asset with a 50-year lifespan, which I think is very realistic. I also even consulted with my auditors to make sure that, financially, according to auditing standards, the 50-year payback would be appropriate. They said yes. In fact, I was going to say 39. They said you can use 50. It's fine to use 50. So with a 50-year payback period, straight line depreciation on our investment of $3 million, taking into account, the revenue from rent that would increase every 3 years. And then also we built maintenance costs in so that there are going to be some maintenance costs. The tenants would pay utilities and so forth, but say a door breaks, or there's some moving parts on the doors that might break, probably are going to have to be replaced sometime over the 50-year life. So we built those costs in at the rate of $2,530 a year for routine maintenance on capital items. So we still end up with a positive rate of return on the $3 million investment that would start out a little over 0.5% the first 3 years, but would go up over 3% by the end. So that's not the same as a cash flow analysis. We aren't going to borrow for 50 years to pay this off. We can't borrow for 50 years. We can only borrow for, we normally only borrow for 10. 15, I think, is the legally longest period we can borrow for. So there would be some negative cash flow at first, but we would then make it up in the latter part of the lifespan and still show a positive return, averaging, somewhere between 1.5% and 2% over the lifespan. That would be the expected rate of return on the $3 million investment that we make.
I only have one thing to that. The depreciation would be straight line over 50 years and fully depreciate the assets over 50-year lifespan. Total revenue throughout the third, if you calculated that, it's totaled on the spreadsheet. Total revenue over 30 years is about $3 million. So we're getting close to that payback by about the 30-year range. That doesn't include interest on the borrowing. However, they'd be paid off as far as the revenue we've realized sooner than the 50 years for sure.
I think we need to make a motion to get anything more on the floor, so.
I was gonna ask a question, or ask for it, but I'll make a motion.
Make the motion to get it on the floor.
Move for a resolution titled authorizing capital project for Whitman Regional Airport to construct T-hangar facilities in the amount of $4.3 million, funded with $3 million of bond proceeds and $1.3 million to be provided by the Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics, BOA, through grant assistance.
I'll second. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Are we closer to being a money-making outfit at the airport than right now than when you started?
Great question. Appreciate that question. So as far as the overall airport budget, we bring in about $1.1 million in annual revenue. So that's a mixture of rental of facilities, rental of land, and some other areas that we have for line items on our revenue side. And this year for 2022, approximately $700,000 in tax levy to balance our budget. So we're not a self-sustaining facility. As far as that goes, we've made gains on the revenue side. When I took over, we were somewhere in the range of $900,000 in annual revenue. And so we've increased that through a number of different initiatives up to about that $1.1 million level that we're at now. We still have a gap to close. One of the things that we talked about a fair amount are stormwater fees. That is the single biggest, second possibly labor, the right way of saying. stormwater fees that we pay on our pervious services at the airport. And the airport is our purview, but I know other county facilities that are within the city limits are also charged those sorts of rates as well from the city. As far as the airport's concerned, in 2022, we have 420,000 to water assessment fees, stormwater. Some small component of that is water usage. The vast majority of that is stormwater runoff fees to the city. So to answer your question, we've made strides on the revenue side. We have made as many strides that we can control on the expense side. There are rates that our single largest expense item on an operating budget. There are rates that the city continues to raise that are out of our control. Quite frankly, out of anyone's control, I think. So we are making strides, but it is a bit of an uphill battle at times with some of that. What I'll point out is that while we do have an operating levy annually for the airport in order to balance the budget, the economic generator that this airport is for this community, this county, far outweighs the annual tax levy. Said this a lot, but our economic impact annually is $210 million per year. And a large portion of that is the EA or venture event. However, about $40 million per year is just our annual side our annual economic impact from our regular operations. And so are making strides and making continual efforts to be a self-sustaining enterprise fund budgetarily. This project would help move that needle in the positive direction. And I'll only add one other thing. If we don't reinvest in the airport building hangars, at some point, we'll have to remove more hangars, and we'll simply be going backwards from a financial perspective. While I understand the payback period is lengthy, these are long-term investments that I can't guarantee they'll be here in 70 years, but I can come about as close to guaranteeing that as possible. Knowing that what we built 50-ish years ago is still serviceable hangar facilities, and we eventually have to replace at some point in time once it becomes more costly to maintain than it would be to construct new space.
Any other questions? Yes, Steve.
I'd just like to say I was glad to see you raised it to the 325. And when the gentleman was here talking about like we're trying to get the maximum, that would barely cover the taxes if that was loose. In versus the leases we signed, they pay property tax on that building. We pay no property tax. And the city of Oshkosh is like $27 per thousand, so every 100,000 is $2,700. That gentleman built that hangar and leased our land at $150,000. That property tax would cost them probably $3,500, $3,600 a year. So it's not like we're trying to maximize. That's why a private individual would have to go $100 to lease that hangar because he's going to pay property tax. We don't. So when he was trying to say like we're trying to maximize the money from him, we're not. We're not even probably charging him much more than property tax. So he's getting to use a hangar that's brand new for what? If he leased the land from us and built it himself, he'd be paying property tax. But I will support it. I mean, but I just, when he said that, we're not trying to take advantage. We're basically subsidizing a hangar because he's not paying property tax, whoever rents it. You know, it's absorbed by the county. But we have an airport that we need to have hangars out there so that basically it stays the active airport. You know, if you have an airport out there with a business and no planes, what do you have? You have nothing. You know, so it's an investment in our future. So, you know, I will support it, but I just, if you ever do see him in the future, explain to him that, you know, if it was the leased unit, you'd pay more in property tax, probably than what they're going to pay for rent on the acre.
Go ahead.
I just want to remind anybody watching on Zoom if they could please mute themselves for the benefit of the committee. There's somebody out there is unmuted. If you could help us out with that, first and foremost, that would be great. Second of all, you know, I think this is a really great policy discussion that you guys are having. As far as getting the airport profitable, that's been really hard to do with any government-owned airport. Jim, you had quite a few experiences with a lot of other general aviation airports. it's really hard, especially when the stormwater runoff bill is so hard and looking to go up another 7% this year. Which is less crazy than the stormwater runoff we paid in landfill, but that's for a different day. We are looking at things, when me and Jim sat down with the master plan, we talked about any kind of additions that we're doing. It is concrete neutral, if not concrete less. So it was any master planning that he's done, including this, we are looking to remove some concrete areas that we have. Anything we can to reduce that. I mean, I think that bill is really high, and putting that on the airport it's really hard to overcome that. So I don't think that we're operating terribly. I think he's doing a good job, and we're trying to move in the right direction. I appreciate everybody's discussion, and I would appreciate whoever at home, if they could mute their microphone, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so end the discussion about, go ahead.
Who's gonna build these hangars for you? I had some history to it. Years ago, the airport director built his own hangars. And later on, they were the ones with the sliding doors and flooded and everything else that happened. Are you building the hangars yourself, or do you have somebody else building them?
I'll just give a little levity to the situation. I'm certainly not that handy, and I've not got the expertise to.
When you had to go through out there with tractors and things grading it.
But to answer your question, we're completing the design work for this project and ready to go to bid once we have funding approvals. So once we go to bid, if the open bid process, RFP process, design bid build process to construct these facilities. So we would be looking for a general contractor to bid on the project. Likely would have multiple subcontractors in this case, because it is a building and asphalt apron areas that we'd be constructing primarily, along with earthwork and other things. So to answer your question, we would be going out to bid on the project.
And I have one other question. Years ago, when we built hangars and stuff, we always had it out there, but none of us will even be around in 50 years, you know.
Okay,
I got one quick question.
under a half minute.
Are we leaving it up to the contractor to decide what the installation material is, or are we specifying that?
No, the design is very specific to the structure and the components of the actual buildings themselves. So there'll be specifications which Mr. Elder and I are reviewing right now, in the process of reviewing, as far as insulation, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, type of building materials used for constructing these hangars. So it's a pretty standard type of building that are constructed all over the country at various different airports, but to be insulated hangar units and heated units as well. So set specifications for type of installation.
Okay, any other questions? Let's make a vote out of this. Those in favor? Aye. Aye. That was 5-0, right? Thank you, Jim.
I'm just. Remove them.
Ashley. Hi. Try to get this noise issue cleared up
We
here.
sent him a note.
Did you?
Is Betsy on?
No, she is
We could
not.
Probably turn the volume down. I think that would be all right. Right? Since Betsy's not on there, she's the only one that would be able to comment.
Right, but they need to, the public needs to hear.
They'll hear it, but if we turn the speaker volume down, is the way they can do that.
Yeah.
Another trick I don't know.
Done. Part two today. Good. We have line 16 all the way to line 19. Several resolutions. 16 starts out organize or authorize a table of organization change of 6 certified nursing assistants, full-time employment positions to 6 hospitality aid, full-time employment positions. That's just an exchange of numbers on the TO. Is that correct?
Correct. We would be just transitioning 6 of our CNA FTEs that we haven't been able to fill to hospitality aids. The hospitality aid program we started over 2 years ago with an initial transfer of 16 FTEs over that has been successful in assisting the CNAs in the care for the residents. So these individuals are the only difference is that they don't have to have that certified nursing license. They can't do direct care, but they can do all the ancillary help that's required.
Start with a motion and a second, please.
I move for a resolution titled authorize a table of organization change of 6 certified nursing assistant full-time employment positions to 6 hospitality aid full-time employment positions for Parkview Health Center.
Second. David, thank you. Okay, any questions? Yes, sir.
I don't see the committee board on here. Did the committee vote on it?
Yes.
Yes, all of these were 5-0, were they not?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Somebody didn't write them in. Any other questions? Can we take a vote? Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Next line item. 17. Authorize Parkview Health Center shift differentials. Goes on to detail that. Would you give us a little update on this?
So currently, we do offer shift differentials for our PM nights and weekends for the nursing staff. Upon our own facility wage analysis compared to other counties, we noted that we are substantially lower in the wage differentials that we are offering. In order to get us abreast of where we need to be at for payment for those difficult and hard to fill shifts for PMs, nights and weekends, we are proposing to increase those. Along with this proposal, then would also be the ancillary staff that work on the weekend for activities, custodians and food servers to also receive a weekend differential for working their required weekends for the services as well.
There is some additional information in the agenda item report. You may want to take a look at it. Let's get a motion and a second on this one, please.
We'll do one more.
The motion,
I move for resolution titled authorize Parkview Health Center shift differentials.
second there. I'll take the second here. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
You know, last year in May, we increased the wages for the RNs, CNAs, and we were like 28 CNA short, today we're 39 short, it's nothing, you know, and I don't really know if this is gonna solve any of your problems. You know, we need to get new people, and I was looking at the Evergreen site, you know, and they offer sign-on bonuses, $2,500 for a RN, and she's got basically less than 5 years experience, 5,000 if she's got over 5 years experience. You know, we need more people in Parkview. We need to have that back to 165 bed nursing home. And I don't think any of the stuff that you have here today is gonna do that, you know, I mean, it's like when they pick up another shift, it should be all that time and a half, not $4 or $6 shift differential for a pickup. And what we do is we used to get paid out for our sick leave. Now you don't get nothing for it. You know, once you have 30 days accumulated, you got long-term disability. So I pick up a Sunday for double time, and then 2 weeks later I call in sick. Because why should I have my days, keep my sick days? I get paid for nothing at the end. You know, like the city of Oshkosh, if you have 120 days, they pay you for 60 of them. You can put it towards your insurance. You don't have that option. You know, so it's like, all we're doing is creating our workers get burned out quicker because we expect them to work more shifts. Well, what we really need is more people. And I think we need to basically evaluate how we get them in here. You know, I just looked at Evergreen site and they have a lot of things that we don't offer. They have $500 that you just put off somebody and they hire them. 250 when they start, 250 when they complete their probation period. We don't have nothing like that. You know, and you're basically trying to work shorthanded constantly, and we're gonna throw a couple dollars at them, but I mean, people can only work so many hours. And then they get burned out and they think that's nothing, it's good for me, I'm getting out of it.
Steve? We haven't gotten to the shift incentive commitments or any.
Right, well, this is a pay differential, we're gonna pay the RNs basically a bigger shift differential to try to, you know.
It's in combination of a whole lot of things.
Right, it's a whole lot of things involved in there, and I don't think this is going to do anything with basically keeping our short-term staff. If you got 3 weeks vacation, I had a niece that when we passed the last dollar, I told her, I said, well, you know, we pay more than Evergreen. Well, shoot, I'm not giving up 3 weeks vacation. And it's the same here, just because you're gonna give them a shift differential of $3, you're not gonna attract any new people. You're gonna pay your existing workers more, but we need new people. I mean, I'll support it if you think that's gonna help you. I don't think you're gonna gain one thing, and we're just gonna continue to lose people, and instead of having a 165 bed nursing home, pretty soon we're down to less than 100.
Yes, sir.
I have a question on line 34. Status employees, $3 per hour shift differential all shifts. Is that right? Is that looking to pay them $3 shift differential on all shifts?
For the responsibility pay RNs, so those would be the building supervisor. So those would be, we have shift supervisors that work full-time, and then we have shift supervisors that cover the shifts when they're off. So they would get an additional $3 an hour when they're covering for the supervisory position.
So you don't get that if you're stepping up to be the shift, the whole shift supervisor.
Right now, we currently receive $2 an hour.
So would that be called shift differential? If it's all shifts?
For those that take the responsibility.
There's only one of those positions per shift.
I don't know, it just seems like it's worded wrong.
Mr. Chairman, may I comment? It is perhaps worded off. It's not truly a shift differential. It is a differential. So we treat it as a differential rather than a per shift pay because that works better with.
We amend this to take off all shifts? Or
Well, the point
different,
is,
or shift,
we could take out the word shift before differential. I think that
the
would.
$3 differential.
Yeah.
Can I make that amendment?
On just the regular status, $3 shift or all of
Straight
them.
shift in all shifts. On line 34. I'll second it.
In all shifts. Okay. And you're,
I'll second it.
you're gonna second that, all right. Would that not? No, that would be the only one where it says differential of all shifts. You you would drop the word shift before differential. Is that correct?
And all shifts at the end.
And all shifts at the end. Okay, and that's on line 34.
That's it. Joe.
All right. Any other questions? No, we're good. You want to vote? Let's vote. It's aye. Aye. It's 5-8, 5-0.
Does that vote on the amendment?
Wait a minute, that's on the amendment. We have to vote on the resolution now. Sorry about that. Vote on the resolution. Anybody? In favor of?
Aye.
Aye.
I was gonna say, I, but I didn't want to read it.
All right. 518. Resolution authorization Parkview for emergency staffing incentives.
Speaking to the emergency staffing incentives, I think it's no surprise that we've gone through a challenge over the pandemic in the last 2 years, along with decreased staff, our inability to take admissions with the COVID pandemic and the scrutiny that we still receive from CMS as our regulations have not changed and they're not going to be changing. Which has caused us a hardship and decreased staffing levels in order to maintain the care and the quality of care that Parkview is known for the residents. In the instance that we are having these emergency staffing situations, we do not have anything additional to offer to our staff other than resorting back to the mandatory overtime, which we know is a burden to the staff, which you're causing them to work excessive hours. In a lot of times, increasing that burnout because they don't want to. These emergency incentives we would be able to offer to staff in order to have them help fulfill the shifts that are hard to fill, unwanted, or that are vacant without having to have the use of the mandatory overtime or forcing staff to stay over.
I wasn't thinking.
I want to add a little bit more to this, Ed. This is something we've been having to do just about every weekend for the last few months after emergency orders, because at Parkview, we have to have staff and we have to be able to care for residents. But after this kept happening, Parkview asked if we could do this 3 months at a time, which I said, no, at this point, it's becoming a policy decision and not an emergency thing. So I did urge them to bring something forward, Kara, or when she was here, to make this a policy decision for the board going forward. I didn't want this to be, number one, something that I had to do every Wednesday for them, and number two, so they could plan for it earlier to give them the ability to look at the next 3 months in staffing shortages instead of, I didn't think it was within my authority to approve that for 3 months. And this is something to my end, if it's going to be an emergency, emergency means now. So they've been having to come for permission the Wednesday before the weekend when they have a staffing crisis. I just want to give a little bit more to that.
When did this amendment happen?
This is proposed. If you'd like me to explain that, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
We met about this yesterday and went through these. When I say we, I mean Ashley and Mark and myself, as well as the county executive. And so we just noticed one error or one change that was needed in that particular point. Point number 3 would offer staff who are 0.8 FTE or greater an additional pay for in terms of double time if they're working above and beyond. Originally said 40 hours per week. That's not the correct. The theory behind that is if you're working something that's overtime anyway, you're going to get time and a half. So there's no further incentive to pick up those additional shifts. And we wanted to provide some additional incentive. So it'd be double time rather than time and a half if it's hours that otherwise already would be overtime. But the 40-hour week is not the right standard for overtime for nursing staff. We use a 8 and 80 standard, which is overtime for any work over 8 hours in a day or 80 hours in a 2-week pay period. And that's an option provided. It's a special exception under the federal wage and hour laws for nursing staff that we can use the 8 and 80 standard. We also have a choice to use the 40-hour standard. We use the 8 and 80. So it should refer to that. The theory was to pay double time to provide extra incentive for people to pick up shifts that already would be overtime. So that's just a technical action that that's the committee to make on point 3.
So this is how it's going to read when it comes to the board without any of our amendments to it. This is in place of this one, the one that we got with the packet. This is the amended version.
So you look like you're wondering what he's saying. Is that right? What he's saying?
No, yeah, no, that's it's up to the committee, of course. I mean, if you want to keep the original language, it's at that for the board. But this is what administration would request be submitted to the board.
Also move.
Excuse me?
Oh, no, I don't want us to move because
I'll move it.
Second.
Number 18, authorize Parkview Health Center emergency staffing crisis concerns.
Second.
Don seconded.
Is that with the correction of using the 8 hours per day as
Yes.
amended?
Yes.
Using the updated.
Using
Yep,
updated, okay.
Updated version. Steve,
If
move.
I could, I just reiterate again, this does nothing to new employees, you know, and that's where your problem lies. We have to get that nursing home back up, the nursing home back up to capacity. And this does nothing to do with that. It's just another incentive for the employees we have. But all we do is burn them all. We can't work 7 days a week.
Okay, all comments? Yes?
Well, maybe this new amendment, or this new yellow stuff here, maybe that'll solves my problem. I didn't look at it that closely. But, you know, could there be a problem with people manipulating their hours to, like, where I used to work, we get time and a half on Saturday, double time on Sunday nights. And Saturdays are almost never filled. And Sundays are always filled. So people, we're always short. Saturday, Sunday, we're never short. So is that, you anticipate any manipulation like that?
The requirement for our staff right now is just to work every other weekend. So this would be. in
No, I
addition.
mean, just manipulating enough hours. It doesn't matter which day, maybe somebody wants to get all on Friday or something.
But
Doesn't
this,
want to work.
this would only be offered at the direction of the administrator. So this isn't all the time. This isn't
Oh,
only in
this-
an emergency
okay.
situation.
Okay, you ready to vote?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Steve, you? Yeah. Okay, we got a 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add that number 19, we are going to postpone.
We're going to postpone 19. What's the reason for that?
I can do that. I don't know.
Hmm?
May I answer that?
That's true.
Okay. Right.
Details surrounding the payment of the completion bonus need to be, I guess, discussed further with payroll on how that needs to be applied to overtime, because we need to be able to apply that completion bonus to the overtime rate as well. So we need to talk to payroll and how we're going to build that into the system prior to continuation.
I see.
And there are possibly, if I may, some issues, as Mr. Supervisor Nussbaum suggested, some issues with, how employees would be affected by some of these incentives, and we have some concerns about that as well. In other words, we're reading some great game playing and some negative incentives created unintentionally.
Do you want this to go back to committee?
Yes, when we will bring it back.
You'll bring it back to committee
Yes.
or from committee. So we're sending it back to committee for whatever. Okay, and that's the way we'll word it or handle it.
Just withdrawn.
Oh,
Ashley Paul, that's usually what I write when a resolution is on the agenda. Is that okay? Just withdrawn?
That's fine.
If you could take us on incentives to get new people, I mean, like, look at Evergreen's, like, they got all kinds of incentives to bring new people on board, and that's what we need to do. You need more people.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. Two transfers here. Mr. Collins? No, these are your transfers. Okay. Can you explain what the heck leadership training?
Sure. Some of the things that we've been doing in department head is we've been doing some leadership training. We've been going through the leadership challenge. Another thing that we've done with department heads, we've done some real color trainings through extension. And we've done some multiple trainings off real colors to really figure out communication style. And I think it's gone a long way in helping our communication behind the scenes and also how we model the way and how we work together. So since it's been working well in department head, we want to expand this to some of the supervisors in some departments, some of the people that supervise people. So we want to have the budget in there so that we can expand to some of their leaders in their own departments to bring them in on the leadership training as well. And some of the smaller departments don't really have the funding to do so. So since it's a directive that we're doing, we're looking for the budget transfer that we can cover that. And he asked, a lot of our department heads are here, some of that training. If it's been successful, it's something we really haven't done in the past. But I think we're getting some great dividends off that.
The training's been really very beneficial for, I think, communications between departments and starting to open up communications within departments. So, I'm fully in support of this, and hopefully I can get my whole department to do it.
Okay, so budget transfer of 14,750.
Motion for budget transfer of $14,625, $14,750 from the contingency fund to use for the leadership development training core values workshops and the UW extension partnership.
Okay.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may. When I went around last summer and I did employee lunches, I sat down with over 200 employees. And both of these resolutions that are coming are based off of their comments. The two things that they said they wanted more in this county is appreciation and training. The two things that was almost overwhelmingly, every lunch that I had, multiple people said it was training or it was appreciation. And coming in third was communication, which the training helps that communication. So I just want to let you know that both of these, but this one specifically and the next one were a result of those lunches and listening to employees.
Okay. You want to vote? Vote on the transfer?
Aye.
Aye. That's gonna be a 5-0. Okay, next budget transfer is for service awards. Goodness, that's. Are you giving them out $100 bills? What is this?
Right now, service.
14.
Oh, the title of the object account is Special Service Awards, but the actual transfer would be for an employee appreciation event.
Right. So what we have right now in human services, there's a CARES team. I'm trying to remember what it is, but they pool their money together and they do some appreciation events. And they've been begging to be able to do something, and we don't buy them anything. I'm not saying we have to do that. What I'm saying is I talked to this and the employees wanted to get together a committee to design or come up with some kind of appreciation event. Whatever that happens to be, whether it be a picnic or a get together or a walk in the park, I don't know, it's up for the employees, the committee to decide. But I wanted to give them a budget to come up with an employee appreciation event. Years ago, we used to have picnics and stuff for multiple departments and workers would be able to get together and talk. So this is just a start of that. You know, and I was thinking maybe a part of this $10,000 would be for that event to appreciate our workers, because we have been working them a lot. We have over 90 vacancies in the county, but the 4,000 for anyone who wouldn't be able to attend because they're forced to work that day. We have people in the sheriff's department, or people at Parkview, whatever event this committee decides to do. I wanted to give them a budget to work with as far as employee appreciation. For these lunches, I've said multiple times again, they don't feel appreciated, that everybody on the county board does appreciate them. And then we want to do something, we want to give them some example to say that we are working on it. And I think that's starting to resonate. We've had certain things that we passed today for Parkview that have come across. We're working on the wage study. We're looking at the comp plan. A lot of employees have gone through the Real Colors training and they really appreciate that. So, I mean, if you ask HR, morale is starting to turn around. And I think this $14,000 would go a very long way for the employees that we have for an appreciation
Buy tickets to the fair.
event.
And all that, like, go and ride, right?
Extra 40 grand.
There you go.
All right, somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Budget transfer $14,625 from the contingency fund to use as the employees appreciation event.
Okay, any questions on this?
I think we should change this report. Question says leadership training.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Before it comes.
glue them together.
Yeah, I left.
May I clarify one item, Mr. Chairman?
So this is appreciation event.
Mike's got a question.
Yes, Mike.
Well, since Supervisor Nussbaum said before it goes to the board, both this item and the previous one are requested transfers out of the contingency fund, less than $15,000, so that this committee can take that action without sending it to board. So there's no resolution.
Employee appreciation.
Okay,
So how are you gonna determine who gets this? I mean, how? I guess I can see you opening a whole can of worms. that
Sure.
$14,000 is gonna be
No.
gone before you know it.
Yep, no, a committee of employees. So one of them from Human Services already does this, and we want to get employees from all different departments together and figure out something that they can do. I really want employees to kind of drive this. Want to be able to give them a budget to kind of drive this. You know, make it be organic, make it come from them. Make it feel appreciated. I understand opening up a can of worms.
I mean, I can understand you putting in $500 or $1,000 for a picnic or something, but I can't go along with this.
Well,
I mean, it's just, too much money.
Sure.
Don?
I like that fair idea, then they could go whenever they want. I think you should put that idea before the committee. That'd be, as far as I'm concerned, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We could take them down to a Brewer game in a bus. But,
That would be a lot more than this.
yeah.
You got the bus, I'm sure you would donate the bus.
Yeah, I don't have the bus anymore. That doesn't work.
Or the basketball, the Wisconsin Herd,
Yeah,
they offer things, so we tried to organize things, but we didn't have any money, so the employee had to buy their own ticket.
but
Possibility.
so easily, without any oversight on it. Not saying, you know, but it can disappear in a hurry. It can be just frittered away. And this is a lot of money. I mean, hell, it's 28. Yeah. Both of these, that's $28,000. So who are you gonna put in charge of the kitty? Who's in charge of that?
Leadership will continue to do.
Who is leadership?
The leadership part that was approved, we've been running that through my office and extension and us and Mandy Dornfeld have been meeting, and Chris View. So we've been doing that to get the colors through. This really was an ask of employees, and we're just gonna try to give them a balance and then let them kind of create something. And if we don't want to do that, that's fine. I was just trying to do something that bring that morale back a little bit. I love the idea of the fair thing too. That's going to cost a lot more money. I know Washington County does that. I think they spend $36,000 a year on that, if not more. Okay.
Speak to something we've been doing it for you all on for employee appreciation anniversary celebrations and things like that with anniversary pins that we've been handing out to employees. They look forward to receiving those. If someone had 20 years of service, then our food service department made the cake, whatever flavor they wanted, cookies or whatever. They could celebrate that with their peers, or they could have it on the neighborhood with the residents to celebrate. Since COVID, we had to postpone all those celebrations, and people were very disappointed, more disappointed than I actually thought they would be, because they like to celebrate those things, 20, 25 years of service. So any little thing goes along. This will show that they're appreciated.
So if we did the fair thing, would we still be under the limit?
Depends how we did the fair thing. I mean,
Free ticket,
The state fair or the county fair?
county fair.
County for about $15 per pitch per
Is that-
ticket
is
is
that,
where it is.
Prepaid tip price?
I believe so. Even if it's 10, we're looking at,
I think it's $12.
is it 12?
If I remember right.
Not sure.
it's about, that budget is about $12 for.
What's it, says 13 on here?
So maybe if you go, you give them so much money and you go to that committee and ask them, they'll buy this many tickets. They'll give it to us for.
Yeah, and I think that's, and I completely understand. I'm asking for a lot of trust here on this money. But I would like to see our employees come up with something, and if that's the fair, I would fully support that, whatever it be. I want it to feel like it's them deciding what it is. I guess one of the things we do countywide is if somebody works here 20 years, we give them a $40 clock. Now, if somebody works for a county for 15 years and comes here, work the last 4 years or 5 years, they don't get the clock. The only thing that we really do for appreciation here is we give somebody a $40 clock if they put in 20 years in Winnebago. And when you said about the pins, I mean, that comes out of the park fees budget, they find a way, a lot of these other departments, they don't have that room. Completely understand and ask for a lot here, if we want to do this now, that's fine, we will still talk to the employees and see what they want to do, if they want to come up with something, form a committee, with, I guess, with the promise that we'll get them a budget to do what they want to, and there'd be fair board tickets. I just thought it'd be a better gesture if we gave them a budget up front. However you guys want to do it, it's fine by me.
Yes.
I guess I gotta go along with you, Chairman Cox. The biggest question is who's going to have that pile of money? I don't want to go and like sit in your office, right in that office, make the decision that if you're gonna have employees, make sure it is some employees that are out in there. And, let them be the ones that go ahead and make. the
You've got a
decision.
committee, if you got a committee, you got a committee head or something, and let's have that name up front and do that. But I don't really, that's too nebulous to just drop a dime in the pocket, and say, okay, take care of it for me.
Maybe you're three, I'll earn some trust with this board, huh?
Well, we could form
I've
a
been-
committee, have the committee generate a proposal, and then we have a more specific dollar amount they could come back with requesting.
Yep.
It's a solid thing. Get it.
Amount for their actual.
Yes,
I just say that, we're over almost 90 employees short. We got staff that are working their butts off to make this county succeed. And we're debating if we should give them $13. I just think that's sad. These people are going above and
John,
beyond.
that's your man right there.
No.
to Head the committee up.
Correct, and it's, I don't think, they're not debating whether they give $13 per employee. I think everybody here agrees they're debating on whether they can trust me to hold the money to make sure it goes.
I just think that's sad. You're a county exec and, we are gonna be an oversight. I mean, we're gonna see where that money goes and next year when they come, if it doesn't happen in the way that we feel is appropriate, there will be no more funding. But wouldn't you give somebody one chance to show what he could do for us? I mean, it's.
I'm not saying I do not.
$14.
trust John, I'm saying the office, I just think it's gotta go out beyond that office. He's the one that brought up the committee, so let's get that committee out there, to get that committee formed. Let's not let it sit in the office.
Really put some bones on the committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull this.
You want to pull this one or you want to pull them both?
I'm gonna pull it. I'm not gonna risk a no vote.
Just this
For our
one.
employees. Yeah,
I don't
I don't think you're gonna get a no vote.
well, I don't wanna risk it.
This one, you
We'll
got,
come back
this
with
one, you got a
another-
5-0 vote.
Do you have a better
No,
idea?
the second one.
than
No, I
this one?
just, I just don't wanna risk a no vote to employees. Right, which is, well, and I get it. I'm not saying anything that you guys are saying are wrong. I'm not saying that you have to trust me. I understand the concerns
John, it
here.
isn't that.
No,
It isn't that. It's,
I will talk to employees. They'll come up with a plan. We'll come up with a number. We'll come back to you. If that's okay.
just the leadership, that's all. Just bring a, say, this is our leader in that group, and this is the way we're gonna do it now. So, that's all.
Okay. I think there should be enough on there so they can buy a couple hot dogs. too.
Well, now that might get over 15,000 there.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, we've
Not
got,
if, not if the fair gives you a deal.
That's true.
And they should, we gave $100,000 this year.
Plus they're probably,
Maybe
gonna-
40 grand
plus they're
extra.
probably gonna bring other people with them. that are gonna pay.
Gonna pull it.
I will talk to them.
Do I have the ability to pull that?
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want. It's up to you, sir.
You could probably even take 50,000 that you're allowed under emergency spending and give it to them.
You have your own
It's up to
contingency
him.
fund in that office.
It's up to the-
Executive office
your
has,
public.
you have your own contingency fund in that office.
No, I made it pretty tight last year.
All
Chairman, she wants to know if she can speak.
right. What is it you want to say?
I just, I, there's been such good discussion and
We're all friends here. Don't worry
To
about it.
pull that,
No, that's his choice, not
Okay.
mine.
Okay.
Okay,
that's all I.
that's his choice.
It's coming back.
It's coming back. and-
It'll come back, doctored up and with a leader on it.
And
Okay.
I would like a 5-0 vote, and if I don't think I'm gonna get a 5-0 vote out of this committee right now, then it's not worth it to me. I'll pull it. We'll come back in a month.
We got a couple other things. We got a resolution for Dan Abercamp.
I'll move resolution combination for Dan Abraham.
Second.
Okey-doke.
We don't pass this, you can't leave, right?
I don't even whether it's passes or not.
I've tried, marking denied on those employee change forms and it doesn't work.
Okay. By majority. Yeah. We got a vote? Aye. 5. And we got one other vote. And we can't do with Betsy not around.
Can he replace your vote?
Well, we can replace her with this, right here. Let's do this.
Yeah.
We're intending,
Well, if we had a vote on record of 4 members last time and new vote on record of 4 members this time, all 5 will have participated in one vote or the other, so if it's the same, are we covered? Is there an answer?
What are we doing?
voting for the time that we want to start this.
Trying to get you on
Don't we agreed to 9 o'clock?
We did agree to 9 o'clock. And the only reason that we're doing this again is because Steve gave me a note that he wanted 9 o'clock, and I turned that in, and we got Sue or somebody saying that they didn't.
Right, you have to be seated or zoomed for the vote to count. So we were going to just do a confirmation vote to make sure that it was 5-0.
next month.
And that's why it was on there. But I don't know if you can.
Well, but seriously, we just didn't have Steve's vote on record was the
Correct.
problem.
Yeah.
If we take another vote, Steve is here, will be on record as agreeing. I think we'll be covered.
Why do we
I
have to
get-
look at it?
Now, just a minute, just a minute. We're just doing this fun more than anything else. We got 5 of them here. We take one for you. Just draw this.
I'm not late for lunch that often.
What am I supposed to do with it? Oh, put it back.
Yeah, circle the 9, otherwise it'll be after 3.
I prefer 8.
We were all thinking 9 o'clock. If we can't get that done, we're gonna be here for an hour trying to get it done. Circle. Son of a gun.
Well, it's best for me. I can't even go fishing now.
Oh, you son of a gun. I thought you guys wanted one. We did. We have.
Plus, you're already out fishing 4 hours before 8 o'clock.
Show a picture of a grouper my friend took out of the golf.
So what am I doing with this?
Circle of 9.
Circle the 9 and we'd be done with it. But we've got David over here circling an 8.
Can't do that.
No. He voted last week. I'm gonna give you mine.
Tell me who that 3 is. They know Jesus.
They're all 9s.
Huh?
They're all
They're
9s.
all 9s?
Mhm.
Good. Turn that one into.
Okay. It was, I'll just write, it was confirmed, meeting will resume at 9.
At 9. No.
Okay.
It was the exact unanimous vote. He was afraid it was gonna happen and it happened.
What's that?
Your unanimous vote for the employees, you know?
Well, we'll come back. You guys made some good points. Make sure we got some people.
Oh, I meant me voting no.
Oh, yeah.
You know what, I catch fish, you would be back, you'd have lunch and be back here by 9.
Right, I would, that's no lie.
Hey, guys, thank you.
Next meeting date is July 7th at 9 AM.
Adjournment, sir,
Move to adjourn.
second.
Well, what happened to me is my wife abandoned me, my daughter. I have a daughter in Iowa, so she goes to help her, and the other daughter in Arlington, Virginia, would have her do all